The Wandering Soul Planet. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Ant Officer. Sometimes when you take a walk in the summer, you may catch a glimpse of an insect that looks like a fly. You almost crush it, but when you take a closer look, you find that it is a queen ant. If there is one here, there should be thousands nearby. The ants crawled on the ground, and almost all of them were crushed by people's shoes, or hit the windshield of the car. They were exhausted and unable to control their course. How many countries were wiped out by the windshield wipers on the summer highway? Just when I was thinking about it, a brown ant ran over, waving its antennae and said, "Report to Major Bai Chang, the number of casualties of our army has been calculated." What? I also vibrated my antennae and asked, "What did you say?" "I don't understand," it thought. "What kind of ant is this? It's like an army," and I was given a small official position, Major. It even speaks a Japanese accent. It really confuses me. Seeing that Meepo was confused, the ant thought that it had been stunned by the huge thunderbolt, so it waved its antennae and said hurriedly, "Report to Major Bone Intestine. Our Japanese Blue Army was fighting with the Red Ant Army, and it was going very well at first. However, it suddenly rained heavily, and both the enemy and our army came to work under the big pine tree on the hill to take shelter from the rain. Our Japanese Blue Army came quickly and in large numbers, and seized a large area in a short time. Unexpectedly, the huge thunderbolt caused great losses to both the enemy and our army. 9,000 soldiers of the Red Ant Army were killed, and more than 18,000 soldiers of our Japanese Blue Army were killed. God bless you that you were not at the scene at that time, and you were still quite a distance away from there. Just now, you were just frightened by the thunderbolt and fainted." Meepo understood things a little bit now. "I am a lieutenant colonel of the Japanese Blue Army. The Japanese Blue Army is really a coward. The losses in this battle are twice as much as those of the enemy. The Japanese Blue Army is truly a cowardly army. But isn't my own name even more cowardly? It's called Major of the Appendix. I have to ask what it means? Should I still use this Japanese language that is neither Chinese nor foreign? Let's try it first." Thinking of this, Mihapeo waved his tentacles and asked in a strange tone, "What's your name doing the work?" The ant thrust out his belly and shook his antennae and said, "We asked Lieutenant Asshole to do the work." "Major Appendicitis, are you confused? Don't you remember?" "Yes." Mihapeo waved his antennae and pretended to be stupid. "We were stunned by the thunder, and we didn't know anything when we woke up. Then we have to report to Lieutenant Colonel Small Intestine." Lieutenant Asshole vibrated his antennae and said, "Ask him to do the work for you. Don't go." Major Appendicitis, Mihapeo, waved his antennae and said, "You should go find the most educated officer in our army and come to work." Lieutenant Asshole vibrated his antennae and said, "Then shall we call the military doctor Professor Wet and Crying to do the work?" Major Appendicitis waved his antennae happily and said, "Yoshi. You work quickly." "Hi." Lieutenant Butthole saluted and stood at attention, then turned and ran away. Not long after, a brown ant that looked a bit stylish and old followed Lieutenant Butthole's butt, limping over. It seemed that this old ant was the military doctor who wet his bladder and cried. The Major Appendix saluted the Professor Wet Crying first, then waved his tentacles and said, "Respected Professor Wet Crying, hello. The thunderbolt just now has knocked out my memory. I have many questions to ask you." The Professor Wet Crying looked at him with a smile and vibrated his tentacles and said, "Young man, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Please go ahead." The Major Appendix, no way to run, waved his tentacles and asked, "Who is the commander of our army in this battle?" The Professor Wet Crying waved his tentacles and said, "The commander of our army in this battle is the calf colonel." The Major Appendix vibrated his tentacles and asked, "Then who is the commander-in-chief of our army in this battle?" The Professor Wet Crying waved his tentacles again and said, "The commander-in-chief of this battle is the Thigh General." No mistake. One poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619. Take a look. Lieutenant Colonel Appendicitis vibrated his tentacles and asked again, "Then, who is our leader?" Upon hearing this, Professor Wet Crying and waving his tentacles angrily said, "Pagalu. You don't even know our big stomach king? Your brain is really broken." Lieutenant Colonel Appendicitis quickly vibrated his tentacles to apologize. "I'm sorry. My brain was really confused. I have another question. Why do we name our work after human organs?" Professor Wet, crying and waving his tentacles in admiration, said, "Humans are the work of our gods. At present, humans have conquered other planets, and the lifespan of humans has reached more than 1,000 years. Human civilization is too advanced. Therefore, our Japanese blue ants have infinite respect for human work. It is our great honor to name our names after human organs. But except for the monarch Big Stomach King, our Japanese blue ants can only take the names of human lower body organs or related names to express our infinite worship of humans. Do you understand?" The lieutenant patrol beside him also smiled complacently, and he seemed to be very proud of his name. Major Biancone suddenly realized and vibrated his tentacles and said, "I understand. What about human feces and urine? Do we like it too?" Professor Wet, crying, waved his tentacles and said, "Of course. Human feces are occupied by robber dung beetles to do work. We are very angry, but it is difficult to get them. When we finally rushed to the scene where humans rarely defecate in the wild, we found that human feces had been quietly rolled away by the robber dung beetles. And human urine, is also a great tonic, which we can't see or grab." Chapter 77, Princess Ling Xiao. The major appendix felt speechless, and finally vibrated his antennae to ask, "How did the enemy red ants on the opposite side get their names?" Professor Wet Cry waved his antennae and said, "Our enemy is the Red Ant Army. Their commander-in-chief of this battle is called Isidus Root, their commander-in-chief is called Cordyceps sinensis, and the head of state is called Saffron Queen." The major appendix vibrated his antennae in confusion and said, "Why do they have such weird names?" Professor Wet Cry waved his antennae and said, "That's because they worship plants like herbs to an unparalleled degree." The major appendix vibrated his antennae with joy and said, "Thank you, Professor Wet Cry. My problem is solved." Professor Wet Cry waved his antennae disdainfully and said, "No thanks, just do your job well." Then the Wet Cry turned and left, waving his tentacles as he walked, cursing softly, "Baga, you are just working like an idiot." Lieutenant Butthole also followed closely behind Wet Cry, indicating that he wanted to send him back. After the two of them left, Major Bone Colonel, no way to run, fell into deep thought. He saw the ant soldiers running around, some carrying things, some calling for help, and some going to report military intelligence or something else. In short, everyone was busy and happy. At this time, it saw an ant soldier resting on the ground, so it walked over and vibrated its antennae to ask, "What's your name?" The ant soldier immediately stood up and waved its antennae and said, "Report to the major. My name is Boo Boo 300,174. The major of the appendix vibrated his antennae in confusion and asked, "Why is your name so strange? What does it mean to work?" The ant soldier waved his antennae and said, "I am of low status and have no qualifications for a formal name. I can only work with a number. My number and name are both Boo Boo 300,174. Boo Boo is the sound of humans farting. We are second-class soldiers who fart twice, Boo Boo, first-class soldiers who fart once, and third-class soldiers who fart 3 times in a row. Therefore, we Japanese Blue Army soldiers are also called fart soldiers when we work." My report is completed. After listening to the explanation of the ant soldier Private Boo Boo 300,147, Major Seacombe waved his hand, let it continue to rest, and turned away. Now his mind is getting clearer and clearer. He suddenly thought, how is Susam now? Where could she be? It is impossible for her to die. She should be reborn. Is she in our army or in the enemy army? Apart from these two places, she won't go anywhere else, right? How can I find her? It is now a war period in the ant world. My status is too low, and it is impossible for me to mobilize many ants to search for her. Oh, it's so difficult. I regret that I often quarrel with her. I really should cherish the good time with her. Just when Major Seacombe, Mei K-Pow, was frowning, in a temporary room made of canary eggshells in the Red Ant Army's battle headquarters, a beautiful female red ant was sleeping on a bed made of silk. She is Mei K-Pow's former eagle husband, now the reborn Princess Ling Xiao Su-san. In fact, she had just woken up, but she didn't want to get up immediately. She was thinking, where am I? Why can't I remember it? I have no impression at all. It turned out that the lightning strike last night took Su-san's life in an instant, and her soul was scared and ran away desperately. If it weren't for the very advanced invisible soul tracking and capture device, which tracked her in all directions and finally caught her with great difficulty, and happened to be reborn in a red ant in the room of the Red Ant Army's battle headquarters, she would have become a lonely ghost at this moment. It happened that this red ant, Who was sleeping soundly and was not awakened by such a loud thunder, was Princess Ling Xiao of the Red Ant Army. Su San's rebirth this time was not a disadvantage, at least it was much better than having no escape. Why did Princess Ling Xiao sleep so soundly? It turned out that she was drugged by Banlingen, the commander of the 7th Legion of the Red Ant Army's battle commander, at the welcoming banquet, causing her to fall into coma. This male ant Banlingen is the Major General Commander of the Red Ant Army. He has been pursuing Princess Ling Xiao for a long time, but Princess Ling Xiao always finds various excuses to avoid him. Therefore, Banlingen wants to take advantage of the opportunity when Princess Ling Xiao comes to supervise the battle during the battle to take her down in one fell swoop, so as to realize his dream of becoming a royal consort. As the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes. Just when Banlingen wanted to take advantage of Princess Ling Xiao's unconsciousness and take her down by force, suddenly, a strong and dazzling lightning accompanied by a thunderclap woke him up from his sweet dream, and a soldier of the Red Ant Army came to report the urgent military situation to him. No mistake, one poem, one post, one content, 1-6, one book, one bar. So, he had to get up and go to handle urgent official business, including treating the wounded, arranging the evacuation of troops, and counting casualties. This busyness lasted all night, leaving him no time to do the bad things of sneaking and playing hooligan. In this way, Princess Ling Xiao, now Su San, was lucky enough to escape again. Princess Ling Xiao is the daughter of Saffron, the queen of the Red Ant Kingdom, and Cordyceps, the commander-in-chief of the Red Ant Army. However, the queen has hundreds of princesses and hundreds of princes, which means she has hundreds of brothers and sisters. However, she is the most outstanding one among them and the one who is most likely to succeed her mother's throne. The Ant Kingdom has always been led by the queen, unlike the Japanese Blue Kingdom, which has always been ruled by males. This time, Princess Ling Xiao came to the front line at the request of the queen and the commander-in-chief to inspect the front line situation and secretly investigate the traitors and enemy spies in our army. However, at this time, the original Princess Ling Xiao has been replaced by Su San, and the current Princess Ling Xiao is a complete fake. Although Su San has controlled Princess Ling Xiao's soul, he has also retained some of the original memories and knows a little about the main tasks to be performed on the front line this time. Chapter 78, Planning and Strategizing. What she needs to consider now is, not only must she play the role of Princess Ling Xiao well, but she must also have her own plans for the future. She thought, what else do I need to do? Should I go find that bastard who has no way to escape? I don't know where he is now. It seems that he should have been reincarnated in the ant colony, either in our camp or in the enemy camp. How can I find him? How can I find him in the vast sea of ants? Forget it. Isn't there an old saying that goes, if you are destined to meet, you will meet even if you are thousands of miles apart, and if you are not destined to meet, you will not meet even if you are face to face. Whether we can meet or not is already determined by fate. Why should I worry about that? My most important task now is to play the role of Princess Ling Xiao well, and I don't need to worry about other things for the time being. Since I have come, I will make the best of it. This is what Su San is thinking now. Just as Su San was ready to get up, a Red Ant Army messenger came running over, waving his antennae and reporting to Your Highness, the princess. The commander-in-chief asks you to go to the headquarters to attend a military meeting. Okay. I see. I'll go right away. Su San got up, dressed up a little, and set off to follow the messenger to the headquarters. The Red Ant Army headquarters was set up in a tree hole at the root of a pine tree, not far from Princess Ling Xiao's canary eggshell residence. The headquarters was on the left side of the pine tree, and she was on the right side of the pine tree, one inside and one outside. Obviously, it is colder outside than inside. After all, it is the hottest season in midsummer. When Princess Ling Xiao arrived at the headquarters, the commander-in-chief, Major General Banlingen, led the chief of staff, Colonel Bangsha, and the commander of the independent regiment, Colonel Gaji, and other officers lined up to greet her. Everyone greeted Her Highness enthusiastically. Soon, everyone followed Princess Ling Xiao and Major General Banlingen's buttocks and entered the headquarters meeting room one after another to sit down. Banlingen wanted to invite the princess to take the main seat, but Su San declined. It had no choice but to invite Su San to sit on its left, and it bowed and sat on the main seat, then waved its tentacles and said, Her Royal Highness the Princess will be attending today's military meeting. There's no need to be nervous, Just say whatever you want as usual. Susan also waved her tentacles and said, just pretend I don't exist, don't be nervous or polite. Banlingen vibrated its tentacles and said, the current situation is slightly favorable for us. We must not relax. According to my analysis, the enemy has been frequently mobilized recently, and there may be some major moves. We must closely observe the enemy's movements day and night to prevent the enemy's sneak attacks and counterattacks. If anyone has any good suggestions now, please put them forward. After everyone was silent for a while, the Chief of Staff Colonel Bangsha waved his tentacles and said, I think the position of Nipataling in the west is very critical. We should send a regiment of troops to set up an ambush here to prevent the enemy from transporting food and grass from the rear to the main force on the front line. Because the distance of transporting food and grass to the front line through this place is more than half shorter than that through other places, it is estimated that the enemy's food and grass have been almost consumed, and there will be enemy troops transporting food and grass passing here soon. If we ambush the team near Nipataling now, and pull the troops up to intercept them before the enemy's food and grass troops arrive at Nipataling, we will have the initiative on the battlefield. Isidus Root vibrated his tentacles and said, the Chief of Staff's proposal is very good, I agree. Your Highness, what do you think? Susam thought for a while, waved his tentacles and said, I am just here to listen to the meeting and not to express my opinions. If you think it's good, then execute it. Isidus Root waved his tentacles and said, that's good. Since your Highness has no objection, then I think it's like this. Who is willing to lead the team to complete this task? At this time, the commander of the 1st Regiment, Colonel Hauchuania Cordata, stood up and waved his tentacles and said, let my regiment go up, I promise to complete the task. Unexpectedly, the commander of the 2nd Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Uobuma, immediately quit when he heard it, and vibrated his tentacles and said, why do you always let your 1st Regiment go when there's a good battle to fight, while our 2nd Regiment always sits on the bench? What's more, your 1st Regiment suffered too much loss this time, is seriously short of personnel, and needs to rest and reorganize. It is no longer suitable for fighting a big war. Our 2nd Regiment suffered very few casualties, and our main forces are basically all there, so we are fully capable of fighting a big war. Commander-in-Chief, just let our 2nd Regiment go up, no mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, take a look. Before Banlingen spoke, the leader of the independent regiment, Gaji, also stood up to join in the fun, shaking his tentacles and said, Commander-in-Chief, why don't you let our independent regiment go up? Our regiment has rich combat experience, is brave and tenacious, and can complete the mission best, which guarantees that you will be most assured. Looking at Banlingen's hesitant look, Susam suddenly thought of the enemy's spy problem, and quickly waved his tentacles and whispered to it, I have something to tell you, let's go out and talk about it. When Banlingen heard this, he thought the princess was interested in him, and hurriedly followed Susam to the door. When they arrived at a secluded place outside the headquarters, Susam waved his tentacles and said to Banlingen, have you heard that there may be a spy planted by the enemy in your headquarters? Banlingen was startled and waved his tentacles and said, ah, there is such a thing. Who is it? Susam waved his tentacles and said, if I knew who it was, I would directly send someone to arrest him. Do I need to tell you? Banlingen hurriedly shook his tentacles and said, then what should I do? Susam waved his tentacles and said, you are the commander, of course you make the decision. However, I suggest that before catching the spy, any major military action must be carried out quietly and not publicized. And you must choose the most loyal, brave and capable people to carry out it. You are right. Banlingen shook his tentacles and said, I know what to do. I'll do it now. Chapter 79, Deployment of Troops. Then, Banlingen turned around and entered the meeting room, waving his tentacles to everyone and said, I will carefully consider the suggestions raised by everyone. Today's meeting ends here, and everyone is adjourned now. While the Red Ant Army was making intensive military deployments, the enemy Japanese Blue Army was not idle either. Just as Major Appendix had just finished his meal and was about to rest, a first-class soldier, number 000008, ran up to Major Appendix, saluted and waved his tentacles and said, report to Major Appendix, we are number 000008 messenger soldier of the headquarters. His Excellency the Commander has ordered, you must rush to the headquarters immediately to participate in the emergency military meeting. All officers above the rank of lieutenant must participate. I have finished my report." Then he stood at attention with a snap, bowed 90 degrees, and turned away. Major Appendix quickly called Lieutenant number 000008 and asked him to accompany him to the headquarters. Not long after, Major Appendicitis came to the headquarters meeting room and found that everyone was there except him. It quickly stood at attention and shook its tentacles, saying, "Commander, Major Bone has come to report for work." The commander's general vibrated his tentacles impatiently and said, "Hurry up and take a seat, we will have a meeting soon." Then, it vibrated its tentacles again and said, "Commanders, today we are meeting mainly to study the problem of food and grass transportation. At present, our army's food and grass are running low, and they must be transported from the rear to here as soon as possible. You all tell us what you think. Don't hide anything." Seeing that no one dared to say anything, the Major General Chief of Staff vibrated his tentacles and said, "Commander, what you mean is that everyone should come up with a safe plan to work immediately. Who'll speak first?" A lieutenant colonel named Gallopy stood up, shook his tentacles and said, "Commander, I think we should send a squadron of at least 5,000 soldiers to transport this batch of food and grass." The commander's lieutenant general waved his tentacles and nodded, saying, "That's right. Then which route do you think we should take to transport the food and grass?" "I think we should take the Nipataling route. This road is very close to us, and it will only take 2 or 3 days to transport the food and grass to us. The other routes will take at least 7 or 8 days. Then have you considered that Nipataling is too close to the enemy's front line? If our food and grass pass through here, it is likely to be intercepted by the enemy, then there is no other way. We can send more people to protect this food transport team. At that time, I am willing to lead my Gabiner squadron to Nipataling to meet their work to ensure that everything is foolproof." "Yoshi, you're very thoughtful in your work, and you're very satisfied with it." Then the lieutenant general of the Thigh waved his tentacles and said, "Major Appendicitis, listen to my order. You will be responsible for leading a squadron of 5,000 soldiers to escort and transport food and grass. Set out immediately to the rear to collect food and grass. After collecting, immediately transport it back from Nipataling Road. There must be no mistakes. You understand?" Major Appendicitis immediately stood up and stood at attention, vibrating his tentacles and said, "I understand. We will ensure that we complete the commander's task." Then, it was about to leave, but heard the lieutenant general of the Thigh wave his tentacles and say, "As soon as the food and grass arrive, our Zero fighters will arrive soon, and our Kyoto Imperial University's top student Colonel Prostate will lead his special forces to attack the enemy's headquarters. Once the enemy's commander-in-chief and Princess Link Xiao are captured alive, it will be perfect." Haha, haha. Seeing that Major Appendicitis was about to go out, the lieutenant general of the Thigh stopped it again, waving his tentacles and said, "Wait a minute, we will send all our existing 15 stink bug bombers to escort you. You just need to speed up the collection and transportation of food and grass. Do you understand?" The major of the appendix vibrated his tentacles and said, "I understand." After that, he hurried away. After a while, the major of the appendix gathered his 5,000 soldiers and hurriedly set out to the rear to collect food and grass. It must spend several days to collect food and grass everywhere, and then spend at least 2 or 3 days to quickly transport it back to the front line. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 book, 1 bar. Take a look. It's really tight time and heavy tasks. There is no way. This is the first big thing it has done since it came to the ant world, becoming a grain transport officer. This is the top leader of the grain transport team. However, this top leader is not easy to be. If you don't do it well, you will lose your head. Anyone would be afraid, but I can't run away. Now the major of the appendix is least afraid of losing his head. It is not that it leaves a bowl-sized scar after it falls off, but that it can be reborn immediately after it falls off. At the same time, the enemy's Red Ant Army was also quietly deploying troops. The commander-in-chief, Major General Banlingen, ordered the 2nd Regiment to intercept and ambush the enemy's grain transport team, and the Independent Regiment to intercept and block the enemy's reinforcements. Both sides were intensively carrying out combat deployment, and a major war was bound to unfold. 7 days later, Major Bone Intestine led his escort squadron to escort a large number of grain and grass, including various dead flies, dragonflies, caterpillars and other insects, and peanuts, corn, beans and other grain plants, etc., carried by 5,000 strong worker ants, that is, porters, also called fart people, and slowly walked towards the steep Nipataling Canyon. At this moment, the 2nd Regiment of the Banlingen Division of the Red Ant Army, which was ambushed on the Nikotaling Mountain, had more than 8,000 soldiers. Their eyes were glowing with excitement as they looked at the large group of enemy troops and a large area of food and grass at the foot of the mountain. Just as Lieutenant Colonel Luobuma was about to order an attack, suddenly, a signalman came running over, waving his antennae and reporting, "Report to the commander. The enemy has dispatched 15 stinky bug bombers and they are flying towards our Nikotaling Mountain." Chapter 80, each has its own unique skills. Lieutenant Colonel Luobuma waved his tentacles regardless and said, "Don't worry about it. Everyone, pay attention, get ready, attack, fire." Suddenly, rows of large and small, some as big as a human thumb, some as small as a human pinky, stones and wooden sticks that were much larger than these stones poured down from the mountain like a mountain torrent. In just a blink of an eye, the Japanese Blue Army's grain transport team was killed and injured by the sudden attack of stones and wood. The loss was extremely heavy. Most of the porters were killed or injured. The escort squadron led by Major Bian Cheng, with more than 5,000 soldiers, including 1,000 first-class soldiers, 1,800 second-class soldiers, and 2,500 third-class soldiers, also suffered about 2,300 casualties. In fact, for humans, this Nikotaling Canyon is just a small gully with a depth of 5 meters, a width of 8 meters at the top and a width of 1 meter at the bottom, but for ants, it is such a dangerous strategic location. Major Bone Intestine was so scared that he hid behind a stone as big as a human butt, waving his tentacles and shouting, hold on and work. Our reinforcements will be here soon." It seems that Napeo got into the role quite quickly, so should we give it the Best Supporting Actor award? After a while, the killer of the Japanese Blue Army, 15 stink bug bombers threw poison gas bombs, super big stink bugs, at the Red Ant Army ambushed on the Nikotaling Mountain on both sides of the canyon. For a time, the Red Ant Army's position was stinking and filled with smoke. Many Red Ant soldiers coughed continuously, and many Red Ant soldiers were fainted by the smoke, and even hundreds of Red Ant soldiers were smoked to death. After repeated bombings, these stink bug bombers finally flew away. However, more than half of the Red Ant Army's ants had completely or partially lost their combat effectiveness, leaving only about 3,800 combat-capable ants. Major Bonehead, who was hiding behind a large rock in the valley, saw that nothing was rolling down the hillsides on both sides. So Major Bonehead waved his tentacles and shouted proudly, "Fat soldiers, the enemy has thrown all the stones and wood, rush up the hills on both sides to work, and there will be a big reward." After shouting for a while, Lieutenant Buttocks finally led more than 1,700 fart soldiers to climb up the hill on the left carefully, and another lieutenant named Buckben led 1,300 fart soldiers to attack the hill on the right, both trying to seize the high ground occupied by the enemy. The fierce battle began, and the enemy and us began to fight hand to hand. The Red Ant Army occupied a favorable terrain, and its current manpower was still higher than that of the enemy. When the Japanese Blue Army rushed to the Red Ant Army's position less than half a meter, equivalent to 50 meters between the two sides in a human war, the Red Ant Army's artillery ants quickly curled their abdomens above their necks, supported their bodies with their hind legs, and got into firing position. Then they aimed intuitively and sprayed drops of formic acid from a distance. The super corrosive liquid with a concentration of up to 60% streaked across the sky and threw it towards the enemy ant colony on the hillside. 60% strong acid is no joke. 5% will sting your skin, let alone 60%, which is simply a fire. The Japanese Blue Army's artillery ants rushing in front of the hillside also wanted to fight back, but the Red Ant Army's artillery ants were resting and shooting easily from a high position. The Japanese Blue Army was exhausted and at the bottom, so even if they fired, they could hardly hit the enemy above. Therefore, the formic acid bombs fired by the Red Ant Army were as dense as a rainstorm, while the formic acid bombs fired by the Japanese Blue Army were as sparse as the urine of a patient with prostatitis. In this way, only a few ants of the Red Ant Army fell, while the Japanese Blue Army's fart soldiers who rushed up the hillside fell in large numbers. The outcome was soon clear. Then, the Red Ant Army leader Luobuma took the opportunity to order the entire army to charge the enemy. At this time, both sides began to fight with bayonets. The ants liked to use their scimitar-like jaws, poisonous needles and claws to attack each other. The Red Ant Army had a huge numerical advantage, only because the Red Ant Army had used formic acid bombs to destroy most of the Japanese Blue Army, and quickly destroyed the remaining enemy troops, killed Lieutenant Fart, captured Major Bone and more than 600 Fart soldiers and 2,400 porters, worker ants. At the same time, 200 meters south of Nitaling, equivalent to 20 kilometers between the two sides of a human war, the Red Ant Army and the Japanese Blue Army were engaging in another more tragic fight. Both sides deployed their best troops. The Red Ant Army deployed their trump card Colonel Gaoji's independent regiment of more than 10,000 soldiers, while the Japanese Blue Army dispatched their trump card Colonel Gitao's 2 squadrons of more than 11,000 soldiers, including the trump card squadron led by Lieutenant Colonel Gallipy's more than 6,000 soldiers. After the Japanese Blue Army sent the 15 Stinky Bug bombers that had gone to Nitaling back to reload their bombs, they flew out again to bomb the Red Ant Army's independent regiment. The Red Ant Army also sent more than 200 Iron Bull chariots that were not afraid of formic acid corrosion to rush at the enemy like a tidal wave. The Red Ant Army's Iron Bull chariots were dozens of times larger than the enemy's soldiers. Not only could they knock over the enemy soldiers, but they could also use their 2 steel-like tentacles to sweep across the enemy, killing or injuring the enemy soldiers. Not long after, the Red Ant Army's tank cluster rushed at the enemy with unstoppable momentum, defeating the enemy army and causing heavy casualties. On the other side, the 15 stink bug bombers of the Japanese Blue Army used their usual tricks, dropping a lot of stinky fart eggs to suffocate and stun large groups of the other side's Red Ant soldiers, the main purpose of which was to make the other side lose their combat effectiveness. On one side, the Japanese Blue Army's planes were bombing wildly, and on the other side, the Red Ant Army's tanks were rampaging. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 look. Suddenly, the number of casualties on both sides rose sharply, and there were waves of blood and rain, and the degree of tragedy was no less than the famous battles in human history. This was really a fierce battle between the two armies, each with its own unique tricks. Just when the Red Ant Army's independent regiment was in a stalemate with the enemy, the grain robbery battle here in Nitaling had already ended. The ant soldiers of the Red Ant Army were happily escorting enemy prisoners and carrying spoils of war towards their frontline base camp. The most important character among these prisoners is our Lieutenant Colonel Appendix, who has no way of escaping. His mind is in a daze now and he doesn't know what to do in the future. Chapter 81, Abandoning the Dark and Joining the Light. At the Red Ant Army's frontline headquarters, Major General Banlingen, Princess Ling Xiao, Colonel Bangsha and a group of officers were drinking the sweet juice secreted from the stomachs of aphids, aphid milk. Everyone drank happily, smiling, and celebrating the victory. Suddenly, a signalman came in and reported with his tentacles waving, reporting to the Commander-in-Chief and Her Royal Highness the Princess, the enemy's grain transport officer, Major Bian Cheng, has arrived. Banlingen waved his tentacles overjoyed and said, "Bring it in." Seeing this, Princess Ling Xiao waved her tentacles and asked, "Should you withdraw the independent regiment now?" Banlingen waved his tentacles and said, "No, on the contrary, I plan to push the 3rd Regiment of the Reserve forward and completely destroy the enemy's main force, the 2 ace squadrons of Colonel Xia Chu." Princess Ling Xiao waved her tentacles again and asked, "Aren't you afraid that the enemy's 15 stinky bug bombers will cause us huge losses?" Banlingen waved his tentacles confidently and said, "I have already calculated it. These stinky bug bombers may have thrown all the stinky eggs, and now they are probably flying back to collect eggs. We should take this opportunity to eat up all their ace main forces." Then it waved its antennae to the messenger and said, "Pass on my order. The 3rd Regiment must rush up and wipe out the 2 enemy squadrons completely." "Yes," the messenger replied, waving his antennae, and immediately ran out to pass on the order. Just at this time, Major Seacombe was escorted in. "It seems that there is no place to run. Oh, how stupid." Seeing the red ants in the room happily drinking aphid milk, Major Seacombe felt even more ashamed and lowered his head in embarrassment. Major Seacombe thought, "After I was reborn, I became such a small and low-level animal, not to mention an insect ant, and in just a few days, I became someone else's captive. It's really embarrassing." When the Commander-in-Chief Banlingen saw Lieutenant Colonel Zicheng being brought in tied up, he immediately waved his tentacles and scolded his men in a pretentious manner. "Hey! What's going on? How could you tie up our distinguished guest? It's really outrageous." Then, Banlingen actually stood up and personally untied the rope that tied Lieutenant Colonel Zicheng, a very thin silk grass compared to humans. While untying the rope, Banlingen waved his tentacles and said hypocritically, "I'm sorry, Sir, I've wronged you, please sit down. After untying the rope, Banlingen waved his tentacles to the orderly and said, come and serve our distinguished guest aphid milk sweet juice. Then, Banlingen waved his tentacles to Lieutenant Colonel Zicheng and said, Sir, you see that you have lost so much food and grass, your superiors will definitely punish you severely. I think you will definitely not be able to go back. Why not join us and work with us? What do you think? There was no way to escape, thinking, hey, why go back to die? It's better to surrender here. This is fine. Anyway, I have only been here for a few days. I am just borrowing someone's body. It can't be considered as treason. Besides, the Japanese Blue Army doesn't look like a good guy. Let's just betray. In fact, this is not called betrayal. It should be called abandoning the dark and joining the light. After thinking it through, Midapeo shook his tentacles and said, I am willing to surrender to your army. But I don't know what I can do for you. Banlingen waved his tentacles excitedly and said, great. Welcome to join our team. Excuse me, what is your name, sir? Midapeo shook his tentacles and said, they call me Lieutenant Colonel Biancheng, but in fact, my real name is Midapeo. From now on, you can call me by my real name, Midapeo. When Princess Lingxiao heard that Lieutenant Colonel Biancheng's real name was Midapeo, her heart suddenly surged with heat, and she finally calmed down her excitement. However, she thought again, could this person be my female eagle Midapeo? I will ask him carefully about this later. It can't be such a coincidence, right? At this moment, Banlingen also calmed down and waved his tentacles and said, of course you won't use your previous name anymore, and there's no need to use your real name. We will give you another nice name. Banlingen turned to Princess Lingxiao and waved his tentacles and asked, Your Highness, what name do you think we should give him? Princess Lingxiao thought seriously for a long time before waving her tentacles and said, how about calling him Major Zissou? What do you think? Banlingen waved his tentacles and said, okay. This name is good. However, it's not Major Zissou, but Lieutenant Colonel Zissou. I will immediately ask my superiors to approve its rank. Princess Lingxiao waved her tentacles and said, let me report it directly to the Commander-in-Chief on your behalf. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum. Banlingen waved his tentacles and said, that couldn't be better. Come, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, let's drink a toast to you for officially joining our team. After saying that, he raised the cup filled with aphid milk sweet juice and toasted with Midapeo, now Lieutenant Colonel Zissou. At the same time, Princess Lingxiao and the school-level officers present joined the toast. At this moment, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou finally smiled and drank the sweet juice with a smile on his face, and toasted with everyone present. Princess Lingxiao looked at its smug behavior and was almost sure that it was the female eagle Midapeo. However, she felt that it was not the right time to recognize it now. If it leaked her true identity as a fake princess, it would be bad. It would be better to be cautious and observe it for a while, or wait until I ascend the throne and become the queen. Just as Princess Lingxiao was daydreaming, a signalman ran in, waving his tentacles and reporting, report to the Commander-in-Chief and Her Royal Highness the Princess, the enemy's 2 ace squadrons have been completely wiped out by our army. The enemy's main force has retreated across the board. Wow! We won. We have achieved a great victory. Long live! Long live! Long live Her Majesty the Queen! Long live the Commander-in-Chief! Everyone cheered and waved their tentacles excitedly, and lifted up the Commander-in-Chief, Major General Banlingen, and Princess Lingxiao and threw them into the air to celebrate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Flea Cavalry. After everyone calmed down, Banlingen waved his tentacles very seriously and said, we must not let victory go to our heads. The enemy may have to retreat because we robbed their food and grass this time. We also have to worry about whether the enemy has any other conspiracy. Banlingen's words almost immediately reminded Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, who immediately shook his tentacles and said, I remember that at the last military meeting, I heard from the commander, Lieutenant General Thai, that a very powerful new weapon has been developed. The Zero Fighter will soon fly over. And there is a top student from Kyoto Imperial University, Colonel Prostate, who will lead a special forces team to launch a surprise attack on the Red Ant Army headquarters and capture the commander-in-chief and Princess Link Xiao alive. There is such a thing. It's impossible. Everyone was very surprised and expressed their disbelief. Banlingen waved his tentacles with a serious expression and said, "It is absolutely possible. The information provided by Lieutenant Colonel Zissou is too important and too timely for us. You have made another great contribution. I want to personally recommend you for the credit. Tonight, no one is allowed to rest. We are all lying in ambush nearby, waiting for the enemy to take the bait. Good fellow, you dare to sneak attack my headquarters, you don't want to live. Listen to my order, for the enemy who attacks tonight, kill them all, and don't spare a single one." After night fell, under the command of Banlingen, the Red Ant Army found places to hide around the headquarters, quietly waiting for the enemy's sneak attack troops to enter their ambush circle. Everyone waited, and midnight passed, and the enemy special forces did not come. Then, another hour passed, and there was no movement. Many soldiers were too sleepy. Another hour passed, and it was almost dawn. Many soldiers had fallen asleep, and everyone thought that the enemy would not come tonight. Suddenly, the soldiers who had not slept yet were surprised to find that a group of large insects like fleas were jumping towards the headquarters. There were dozens of them. We might as well call them fleas. Obviously, if these large flea-like insects are really fleas, then they are definitely super fleas. These huge fleas are several times larger than ordinary ants. Each time they jump, the distance is as far as 20 to 30 ants, and the height of the jump is as high as more than a dozen ants. There is an enemy ant sitting on the back of each flea. Wow! Is this the enemy's special forces? It turns out that it is this newly formed flea cavalry unit. Such flea cavalry come and go quickly. How to catch them? Thinking of this, everyone can't help but have a headache. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou thought of the time when he was a female eagle and his legs and wings were injured and he couldn't fly. He quickly waved his antennae to tell Banlingen, "Find a way to injure the flea's legs and feet so that it can't jump up or run away." Banlingen immediately waved his antennae and ordered, "Pass the order down, tell everyone to do everything possible to cut off the flea's long legs so that it can't jump up again." So, when the enemy's flea cavalry troops all entered the ambush circle, the Red Ant Army ambushed nearby rushed towards the Japanese Blue Army special forces from all directions like a tide. Suddenly, everyone found that the enemy special forces who were riding on the fleas with 4 legs actually used the front 2 legs as hands to hold a spear, and this spear turned out to be the bamboo toothpick that humans use to pick up broken vegetables and rice residues between teeth, and used it as a weapon to pick, stab, poke and sweep to attack our soldiers who were close to them. They danced very skillfully, just like Zhao Ziling in the ancient Three Kingdoms period wielding his 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix spear, making it almost impossible for our soldiers to get close. Isidis Root, Princess Link Xiao, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou and a group of lieutenant officers were all stunned. Wow, this is too awesome, how similar it is to the ancient cavalry of mankind. At this time, the commander of the special forces of the Japanese Blue Empire, Prostate, saw that the Red Ant Army was increasing in number, and knew that it was not good. He immediately waved his tentacles and ordered, "Bagala. There are too many enemies, we have fallen into a trap. Everyone, retreat quickly." When the Red Ant Army artillery was about to fire formic acid at the enemy special forces in the next second, in the blink of an eye, the enemy flea cavalry jumped and disappeared in the thick morning fog. Although 2 Red Ant Army soldiers had climbed onto the flea legs by chance, they were still picked up by the enemy soldiers with toothpick spears. Several brave soldier ants jumped forward and grabbed the enemy's spears tightly with both hands, but the enemy cavalry threw down their spears and toothpicks and fled. In this battle, our army suffered 200 to 300 casualties, while the enemy only left 2 toothpicks. The victory and defeat were completely disproportionate. However, we crushed the enemy's conspiracy to sneak attack the headquarters and capture our leader alive, which can be regarded as a considerable victory. No mistake, 1 sentence, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 look. Moreover, we have witnessed the strength of the enemy's newly formed flea cavalry special forces. After returning to the headquarters meeting room, everyone began to discuss these issues. Thinking of the strength of the enemy special forces, everyone was more grateful to Lieutenant Colonel Zissou. If it weren't for its timely intelligence, everyone would be finished today. Banlingen proposed that Lieutenant Colonel Zissou be responsible for forming a fleet cavalry unit of the Red Ant Army, and most of the school officers and Princess Ling Xiao agreed. However, how to form a fleet cavalry unit with the same combat effectiveness as the enemy? Everyone thought that we must first find out how the enemy trained such a force. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou shook his antennae and said, "Now, there are 3 questions before us. First, how did they make these fleas so obedient? Second, how did they get these human toothpicks? Third, how did they practice their martial arts of wielding toothpicks? I think it is necessary to send people to infiltrate the enemy's special forces to learn the details, so as to create the necessary conditions for us to form our own fleet cavalry." Chapter 83, Accepting the Mission. Isidus waved his tentacles and said, "I fully agree with Lieutenant Colonel Zissou's idea. As for who to send to infiltrate the enemy's special forces, this is a highly confidential military secret of our army. It is not convenient to discuss it here. Let's adjourn now. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, please stay for a moment, I still have some questions to ask you. In addition, Your Highness, please stay for a while, and we will discuss the details soon." Only Isidus, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou and Princess Ling Xiao were left in the headquarters meeting room, and the rest of the officers had left. Isidus Root waved its antennae and asked, "Who do you think is suitable to send to the enemy's fleet cavalry unit?" Princess Ling Xiao waved her antennae and said, "At present, of course, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou is the most suitable. We are all red ants. If we go, we will be discovered before we get close. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou is a brown ant of the Japanese blue tribe. It is the most suitable to go there and it is not easy to be discovered." Isidus Root waved its antennae and asked again, "Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, what do you think?" Lieutenant Colonel Zissou shook his antennae and said, "I don't think I can go there for the time being. It's not that I'm afraid of death and dare not go, but I still have a lot of preparation to do. I think we should select some honest and reliable prisoners from our group of prisoners and educate them to turn over, so that they can be used as an important force for our intelligence and special work in the future. It won't be too late to carry out the mission after I successfully train them." Isidus Root waved its antennae and said, "Very good. It seems that you have considered it very carefully. If you need any help, just let us know. We will fully support you." Lieutenant Colonel Zissou waved his tentacles and said, "How about you lend me 800 soldiers first?" "No problem. I'll give them to you right away." Isidus waved his tentacles and said, "Where's the messenger?" With a hear sound, a messenger ran in from outside the door. Isidus waved his tentacles and said, "Pass my order and ask the commander of the 1st Regiment to run over and say there is an urgent military situation." With a yes sound, the messenger ran out. Not long after, a report sounded outside the door. "Come in." As soon as Isidus waved his tentacles and finished speaking, the commander of the 1st Regiment, Hautsunia Cordata, walked in. "Commander-in-Chief, is there any important task you need me to complete?" "Your most important task in the future is to fully cooperate with Lieutenant Colonel Zissou's work." "Any problem?" "No problem, I will complete the task resolutely. From now on, you are Lieutenant Colonel Zissou's partner." Isidus Root waved its tentacles and said, "Except for fighting and life, you must listen to Lieutenant Colonel Zissou in everything else. Do you understand?" "Why?" Hautsunia Cordata asked in confusion, waving its tentacles. "Lieutenant Colonel Zissou is going to form a fleet cavalry unit and an intelligence reconnaissance unit," Isidus Root explained, waving its tentacles. "These are the 2 sharp swords that we will insert into the enemy's heart in the future. Do you understand their importance?" "Yes, since you will be partners in the future, you 2 should eat and sleep together from today on," Isidus Root said, waving its tentacles. "I will arrange a larger room for you 2. What do you think of my room?" "No. Thanks," Hautsunia Cordata said, waving its tentacles. "How can I have the nerve to live in the Commander-in-Chief's room? It will be too embarrassing to tell others about this. In fact, my room is quite spacious, and it is no problem for 2 people to live in it." "Really no problem?" Isidus Root asked, waving its tentacles. "No problem at all, that's good. If you have any problem, tell me. Don't be embarrassed. Hey. This is wartime. There is nothing we can do about the housing shortage. I hope you 2 can understand my difficulties." Princess Ling Xiao, who was sitting next to him, found that Banlingen was very cunning. He solved the housing shortage problem with just a few words and shirked his responsibility. He is really a good material for being an official. It seems that I have to be more cautious with him in the future, so as not to fall into his trap if I am not careful. "No mistake," One post, one content, 1 book, 1 bar, take a look. From now on, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, no escape, began to set up an intelligence network for the Red Ant Army. In fact, the Red Ant Army still has its own intelligence sources, but it just sent a few scouts to the enemy's frontline positions and planted a few spies in the cities occupied by the enemy. No one has penetrated into the enemy's interior yet. Seeing that the matter had been settled, Princess Ling Xiao said goodbye to Banlingen and immediately went back to report the battle situation on the front line to her father, the commander-in-chief of the Red Ant Army, and applied to him for the rank of Lieutenant Colonel Zissou. Then, she went to the palace to visit her mother, Queen Saffron, and several brothers and sisters who were good friends. Zissou now felt that it was very important to have a good relationship with the head of the regiment, Hautsunia Cordata. Therefore, Zissou flattered Hautsunia Cordata and tried her best to please it. One moment, she waved her tentacles and said, "I think the commander-in-chief is the most capable hero in fighting. We will definitely have a bright future together." The next moment, she waved her tentacles and said, "When I get good and profitable intelligence in the future, I must make sure that the commander-in-chief takes good care of you." Soon, the two of them were as close as wearing the same pants, walking together arm in arm. Hautsunia Cordata personally made a bed for Zissou and asked the orderly to prepare a sumptuous lunch for the two of them, as a welcome for Zissou's new arrival. After lunch, Zissou asked Hautsunia to borrow 800 soldiers to go to the prisoner camp. Hautsunia was very straightforward and simply led 1,500 soldiers to follow Zissou to the prisoner camp. The director of the prisoner camp's detention center had received instructions from Major General Banlingen and opened the gate to let the two of them lead the team in. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou first asked Hautsunia to lead its 800 soldiers to surround the entire prisoner camp's detention center playground, and then asked the director of the detention center to call all the prisoners to gather on the big playground. Soon, all the enemy prisoners of this grain robbery battle gathered on the big playground one after another. Chapter 84, Training Agents. When all the captives were present, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou began to lecture them. On the one hand, he used his own words to induce and incite them to rebel, and on the other hand, he threatened them with hard labor and punishment. Soon, most of the captives were willing to surrender. In addition to 300 or 400 idiots, more than 2,600 brown ants were willing to join the red ants. This was also a strange story. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou asked the hundreds of stupid brown ants with great curiosity, "Why would you rather do hard labor than surrender?" Unexpectedly, some of these idiots said that they were afraid of being traitors and insulting the reputation of their ancestors, some said that they were afraid of losing the face of their fellow villagers, and some were afraid of implicating their relatives. What was even more ridiculous was that some of them actually said that they were thinking about other things in the back just now, and their minds were wandering, and they didn't hear clearly what he said just now, so they didn't come out to surrender. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou was so angry that he didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and in a rage, he ordered them all to do hard labor. Next, Zissou and the 1,500 Red Ant soldiers led by Hautsunia Cordata began to train the nearly 2,600 captive soldiers who had surrendered. Zissou first asked Hautsunia Cordata to lead 800 Red Ant soldiers and more than 1,600 porters, worker ants, to the base camp to build barracks and carry food and goods. He led the remaining 700 Red Ant soldiers to train the remaining 1,000 surrenderers. The first was physical training, letting them run 5 laps along the playground. Then there was mountain climbing training, and then there was quick digging and drilling training. In short, they were trained as ground rats. After all these trainings, there was high-intensity stunt training, such as rock climbing, high jumping, swinging and rolling, etc. Next, it was to select smart and capable talents for spy training. Obviously, all these trainings could not be completed in one day. After more than a month of training, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou selected 50 winners from among them for spy training, which were his initial intelligence talents. At this time, the lieutenant colonel rank of Zissou had been officially wholesaled by the commander-in-chief, Dongchong Xiaoxiao. He trained the dozens of winners in basic spy skills, such as observing words and expressions, quick response, improvisation, tracking and anti-tracking, surveillance and anti-surveillance, etc. In addition, there are patience, endurance and perseverance training. Since the ant colony society has not yet had written records similar to humans, there are only some popular daily expressions, which is very unfavorable for the collection of intelligence information. Although Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, a future person from our Earth, has a very strong foundation in writing, it is not possible for him to create a common writing for the Ant Colony Society in a short time. Because the writing foundation of the Ant Colony Society is too poor and weak, it is many times worse than that of human illiterates. It is not easy to improve their cultural level and cultural literacy. Even if you take a real object to compare with a certain word to explain the meaning to the ant, it may not understand it, let alone remember it, unless you meet a very smart ant like Banlingen. But there are too few such ants after all. It was indeed a headache for Lieutenant Colonel Zissou to do intelligence work in the ant world without a literacy foundation. It seemed that there was only one way to do it. The simplest way was to use some physical objects to represent a certain thing, such as, a small leaf grass means a small group of enemy troops will come, a large leaf grass means a large group of enemy troops will come, a small white grass flower means a group of enemy stink bug bombers will fly over, a small yellow grass flower means a group of enemy flea cavalry will come, nothing means no enemy will come, etc. When Lieutenant Colonel Zissou felt that his preparations were almost done, he reported to Banlingen. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Banlingen asked him to eliminate the traitor. Zissou also felt that this matter was very important, so he selected the most shrewd and capable 25 spies from the 50 spies he trained, and asked them to secretly track and monitor the guards, service soldiers, messengers and communication soldiers near the headquarters, the commander-in-chief and the heads of various regiments. During this period, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou also asked Banlingen to deliberately issue some fake troop transfer orders to see what the surroundings would react to. Soon, within a few days, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou locked on 5 suspicious Red Ant soldiers, including service soldiers, messengers and signal soldiers. Finally, after careful deployment and secret surveillance, 2 traitors were finally found, 1 service soldier and 1 signal soldier. After completing the task of catching the traitor, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou officially began his highlight, going to the enemy camp to find out the secret of the flea cavalry. No mistake. This is a very difficult task. Except for Zissou, no one here has the ability to complete it. Before this, Zissou also made full preparations and sent out several spies to find out the approximate residence of the enemy flea cavalry. Tonight, he will start to set off, and he will only take 5 of the most loyal and reliable spies with him to carry out this dangerous mission. All other spies will stay and listen to Banlingen's separate arrangements. A few days later, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou and his team, who had passed through more than a dozen enemy blockades, finally found the base camp of the enemy's special forces, the Flea Cavalry Battalion. Looking at the densely packed sentries and guard towers in the distance, it was quite difficult to enter this enemy cavalry camp. Zissou, hiding in the bushes, kept muttering in his heart, how can he get in? Who can he find out about the situation after entering? How can he understand the situation without being discovered by the enemy? Zissou thought, let's find the main road and gate to this barracks first. Not long after walking around this enemy barracks, they found the main road leading to the barracks and the main gate of the barracks. Naturally, there are many enemy soldiers guarding here, and the security is very strict. It is impossible to enter casually. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou dispersed his men and secretly monitored the main roads at the intersections to see if there were any grain transport convoys or other teams entering and leaving here. Chapter 85, Sneaking into the Enemy Camp. In order to sneak into the barracks, you must first sneak into the grain transport team. After waiting until the afternoon when the sun was about to set, a long grain transport team slowly walked towards the enemy cavalry camp. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou found the end of the grain transport team and quietly followed the team for a while. When the team turned a corner, he immediately and decisively killed the last ant soldier, Porter, carrying grain and grass by twisting his neck. Then, he used a stealing beams and replacing pillars strategy to carry grain and grass for this unfortunate ant soldier. Not long after, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou sneaked into the enemy cavalry camp and entered the warehouse where grain and grass were stored. He found that the grain warehouse was large and there were many things, so it was not difficult to get out, so he hid in the warehouse when no one was paying attention, and then sneaked out after dark. Generally speaking, ants do not use fire like humans, and there are no lighting devices such as electric lights. Therefore, the grain warehouse is almost pitch black at night, and only occasionally the moonlight can be seen vaguely. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou slowly walked out of the warehouse and came outside. When passing by the collective dormitory of the enemy ant camp, it heard a snoring sound, indicating that the enemy ants were sleeping soundly. Suddenly, it heard a sound of footsteps coming from far away in front of it, and it quickly hid on the spot. After a while, a team of night patrol ants passed by it in unison. After the patrol passed, it continued to look for useful things. Soon it found the flea pen, should be called a flea pen, guarded by the enemy army. This place for fleas is very large, enough to keep hundreds of fleas. However, there are many soldiers guarding outside day and night, and patrols patrolling back and forth non-stop, really taking care of these fleas as treasures. It seems that it is almost impossible to get these fleas. Then can I get a method of raising and training fleas, and then go out to catch some fleas in the wild to raise and train them? Yes, this method is good. But how can I get these methods? Zissou thought, I might as well hide near this flea pen and see who will serve these fleas. After midnight, a group of ant footmen came with a large pile of food and grass that fleas loved to eat. They planned to give these fleas a midnight snack. As the saying goes, a horse cannot grow fat without night grass. These fleas also like to eat night grass like horses. Zissou thought, when they finish feeding the fleas and go back, I will follow behind their team and catch a horseman, or flea farmer, who raises fleas to ask him. See if he knows how to raise and train fleas, especially how to make fleas obedient. Not long after, the flea farmers poured the grass into the flea pen and evenly arranged it, and then left. Zissou followed them quietly, and in a remote corner, he knocked out the last flea farmer without a sound. Then, he carried it on his back and sneaked back to the innermost corner of the warehouse, woke it up, and began to question it. You must listen to me and work quietly without shouting or talking loudly. Lieutenant Colonel Zissou waved his tentacles and said, answer whatever I ask you and don't lie. If you don't listen, you will die. The flea farmer was immediately terrified and even ant urine came out of his mouth. Just like when he was scared to death and peed like a toad. He waved his tentacles and stammered, Madam, please spare me. I will tell you everything. Tell me, where are the fleas here caught from? Lieutenant Colonel Zissou waved his tentacles and asked, and how do you make these fleas work so obediently? Madam, this group of fleas was caught by our leader, the genius Commander Colonel Prostate, from the 100,000 mountains in the west. The flea farmer waved his tentacles and said tremblingly, then they were trained in a newly built flea training base in the mountains. And then brought here after they were trained. Then how do cavalry training work? I heard that 2 senior cavalry instructors were invited from Kyoto Imperial University to train them. Where did the cavalry get the guns and sticks? I heard that the smartest and most capable expedition team sent by the Empire stole them from a place far away outside the mountains where giants live. They stole a lot of them. Do you know where they are? Zissou asked, waving his tentacles. I don't know. Master, we really don't know. Because we can't touch those things. Maybe the cavalry know. This is probably all I know. The flea man waved his tentacles and said. Zissou saw that the flea man didn't speak the language of the Japanese blue ants very well, but he could understand it. He was probably a minority ant, a minority of the Japanese blue ants, captured from a remote area by the Japanese blue ants to do hard labor. Seeing that Zissou was about to knock him out or kill him, the flea man was frightened again and waved his tentacles and said, Sir, spare me. I know where the flea training base is. As long as you show mercy, I am willing to take you there. Zissou put down his hand that was about to knock him out and waved his tentacles and said, then you also know where to get out of this barracks safely. The flea man thought for a while, waved his tentacles and said, we know. Sir, please follow me. In this way, Lieutenant Colonel Zissou followed the flea man, turning left and right to avoid the enemy's checkpoints and patrols, and finally crawled out of the enemy's flea cavalry camp through a winding ditch. Then, he took the flea man to meet his men who were waiting outside the enemy barracks. After a rest, he immediately let the flea man lead the way to the flea training base in the mountains. They climbed over one mountain after another and traveled for several days. Finally, after climbing over the last mountain, they saw a large plain at the foot of the mountain in the distance. On the plain, they found a large group of fleas jumping around. Some were trained to be very good, while others were still jumping around randomly. Could this be the flea training base? Lieutenant Colonel Zissou wondered, what methods did they use to train the fleas? Chapter 86, Accidental Arrest. Should we go closer to take a closer look? Thinking of this, Zissou waved his antennae and asked the flea farmer, do you know how they train these fleas? Tajin, I heard that the fleas are so obedient by eating some kind of herb. Do you know the name of this herb? I don't remember the specific name. But the ant soldiers who train the fleas must know it. Zissou thought, It seems that I have to catch another tongue to ask questions. Looking at such a large plane, Zissou waved his antennae and asked the flea farmer, "Do you know where their collective dormitory is?" "It's at the top of the west. It's still a long way from here. We must go around the edge of this plane, otherwise, we will be discovered by them. You go in front. We will follow you." Going around from the side, they had to climb over another small mountain on the left. After spending several hours like this, they finally came to a place not far from the enemy's collective dormitory. This is a relatively hidden place at the foot of the mountain. There are a lot of tall and dense grasses around. It is impossible for the enemy to find us, Zissou thought. At this time, the flea farmer next to him waved his antennae and said to Zissou, "Taijin, the dormitory of the ant soldiers who train fleas is opposite. After dark, we sneak over and we will definitely be able to catch an ant soldier and ask it for details." Zissou nodded, indicating that he understood. The sun was about to set. At this time, the flea farmer came hurriedly and waved his antennae to Zissou and said, "Taijin, I want to go to the bushes behind to work." Zissou waved his antennae and said, "Go ahead. Remember to go and come back quickly, don't delay too long." The flea farmer nodded and waved his antennae and said, "Hey, Taijin, I know." Then he turned around and hurried to the deep bushes behind. After a long time, the sun gradually set and the sky gradually darkened. But the flea farmer hadn't come back yet. Zissou felt something was wrong and hurriedly sent a man to check. After a while, the man came to report that the flea farmer had run away and disappeared. Ah! No, Zissou was shocked and felt that he had been fooled. Suddenly, countless brown ants came from all directions, shouting, "Catch them alive and don't let them run away," and surrounded them. Dozens of flea cavalry rushed over from a distance and joined the roundup. Zissou and his friends were quickly caught by the enemy. Although they wanted to break out, the enemy numbered hundreds and thousands, and their skills were not weak. They resisted and struggled tenaciously, but to no avail. In the end, they were tied up and sent to the enemy leader. Suddenly, Zissou and his friends found that the missing flea farmer actually walked over in a swagger. It came to Shizo, waving its tentacles proudly and said, "Let me introduce myself again. I am Colonel Prostate, an excellent student of the Military Academy of Kyoto Imperial University, and the current captain of the Flea Cavalry Battalion. If I remember correctly, I guess you should be the captain of the squadron under the general of our army, Major Bone Intestine, right?" Shizo was shocked when she heard it. She didn't expect that this ugly and shabby flea husband was actually the famous Colonel Prostate in disguise, and it had already seen my true identity and lurked beside me without anyone noticing. I didn't even know it. It seems that I had been discovered by it and was secretly followed and monitored by it. It can be seen that there are also people with high IQ in this ant pile, and even such insidious and cunning people as Colonel Prostate, who unexpectedly deceived and defeated me, a stupid human being. Thinking of this, Zissou waved his tentacles dejectedly and said, "So, you have already discovered us, and you also know our intentions." Colonel Prostate waved his tentacles complacently and said, "Of course. Soon after you arrived outside our barracks, we understood your purpose and intention, that you wanted to attack our flea cavalry brigade, and your conscience was extremely bad. No mistake. Therefore, we deliberately mobilized the grain transport team to lure you in, and disguised ourselves as flea farmers to work, risking our lives to lure you into the trap, and finally caught you all here. Haha. You know how powerful I am." Zissou thought, "This guy is so smart, could he be Su-san in disguise? No, it's impossible. First, Su-san is kind-hearted, simple-minded, and has no intention of deceiving or cunning. Second, Prostate was not at the scene at all on the night when we had the accident. As long as it is not Su-san's transformation, I don't need to care about it even if it is the reincarnation of another human being." After understanding this, Zissou raised his head proudly, waved his antennae and said, "Yes, you are right. I was blind and didn't see through you, a wolf in sheep's clothing. However, maybe you don't know, I am no longer a member of your shitty team. I have long since turned to the light, and I am now Lieutenant Colonel Zissou, officially appointed by the Red Ant Army." "What? Bastard!" Prostate waved its antennae angrily and said, "You traitor to the Empire, a traitor to the country. We want you to die. Tell me, why did you betray the Empire? Hasn't the Empire treated you well?" Zissou waved his antennae without blushing and said, "No reason. I just can't stand you group of arrogant and domineering brown ants. Your conscience is very bad." Prostate waved its antennae angrily and said, We will make you work in a way that would rather die than live. Drag you out and beat you hard. Then he turned and left. Soon, Zissou was taken into a room alone, hung on a wooden pillar, and beaten by a group of vicious thugs. Soon, it was beaten unconscious, and then woke up with cold water, and continued to be beaten. After doing this several times, Zissou was already dying. At the same time, 3 of its 5 men would rather die than surrender, and 2 spineless men surrendered again. Chapter 87, Reincarnation of the Praying Mantis. The next morning, Zissou and his 3 men were taken to the execution ground to be executed. The sun rose, and they were leaving to report to the faraway kingdom of heaven, the 3 men thought. They did not regret it, because they felt that joining the Red Ant Army was much happier than joining the Japanese Blue Army. However, Zissou, who had no way to escape, was thinking, what kind of creature will I be when I am reborn next time? Can I choose for myself? Can I tell them my decision loudly? Just before the execution, Zissou saw a mantis that was more than 10 times larger than an ant in the grass not far to the left front, so he waved his antennae and shouted at the top of his lungs, God, let me turn my soul into the mantis in front of me after I die. The enemy soldiers next to him were puzzled by this and thought, this guy must have been scared into a lunatic. With the sound of execution begins, followed by 4 sounds of snap, 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 snap. The heads of Zissou and the other 4 heroes were hit by the strong ant soldier executioner behind them with a thick wooden stick, breaking their necks and passing away. No, Zissou's soul did not go far away, but was captured by the soul tracking capture device and installed on the mantis. Not long after the enemy left the execution, the mantis that suddenly fainted for no reason just now woke up. It is naturally no longer the original mantis, but Lieutenant Colonel Zissou. It can't be said that way. To be precise, it should be the mantis that can't run away. Hey. It seems a bit awkward. Otherwise, let's call it Zissou Mantis. Zissou, who woke up at this time, was surprised to find that he finally turned into a mantis. Wow! My dream really came true, it shouted. Suddenly, a voice that only it could hear rang in its mind. According to your wish, we have successfully transplanted your soul into the organism you want. Are you satisfied? Next, you have to take care of yourself, Zissou hurriedly shouted. Thank you. Thank you. I will work hard. After being happy for a while, Zissou Mantis began to hesitate again. What should I do next? Should I abandon Lieutenant Colonel Zissou's mission and go directly to Susan, or continue to carry out the mission? This question of whether to stay or go has been hovering in Zissou's mind, making it unable to make a decision for a long time. A gurgling sound came out of his stomach. Hey! How come I didn't even know I was hungry? I should go find something to eat. Everything will wait until I have a full meal. Putting aside all worries, the mantis quickly jumped into the deep grass to find its food. The mantis eats a lot of food, mainly insects that are not much different in size from it, such as grasshoppers, locusts, spiders, dragonflies, wasps, flies and large fleas, which are all its delicacies. If you look at it from the outside, it is not intimidating. On the contrary, it looks quite beautiful. It has a slender and elegant posture, a light green body color, and long wings that are as light as gauze. The neck is soft and the head can turn freely in any direction. Only this insect can gaze in all directions, which can be said to be able to see everything. The mantis even has a face. All of this constitutes the gentleness of such a small animal. The mantis is born with a graceful and elegant figure. Not only that, it also has another unique thing, that is, the pair of extremely lethal and offensive charging and defensive weapons growing on its front feet. The difference between its figure and its pair of weapons is so huge and obvious that it is hard to believe that it is a small animal that coexists with tenderness and cruelty. Anyone who has seen a mantis will clearly notice that its slender waist is very long. Not only is it very long, but it is also very powerful. Compared to its long waist, the mantis's thighs are longer. Moreover, there are 2 rows of very sharp sawtooth-like things growing under its thighs. No mistake. Behind these 2 rows of sharp sawtooth, there are some large teeth growing, a total of 3. In short, the mantis's thighs are simply 2 rows of sawtooth. When the mantis wants to fold its legs, it can put its 2 legs in the middle of the 2 rows of sawtooth, which is very safe and will not hurt itself. If the mantis's thighs are like 2 rows of sawtooth, then its calves can be said to be 2 rows of saws. There are many more sawtooths growing on the calves than on the thighs. Moreover, There are some differences between the sawtooth on the calves and the thighs. At the end of the serrations of the lower legs grow sharp and hard hooks, which are like golden needles. In addition, there is a double-edged knife on the serrations, just like the curved scissors used to trim various flower branches. Usually, when the mantis is resting and inactive, this extremely brave machine for catching other insects just curls up its body at the chest. It seems to be particularly peaceful and not so aggressive. You may even feel that this little animal is simply a gentle little insect that loves life. However, it is not always like this, otherwise, the offensive and defensive weapons it has on its body will be useless. As long as there are other insects passing by them, no matter what kind of insects they are, and whether they pass by unintentionally or invade intentionally, the peaceful appearance of the mantis will disappear in an instant. The small animal, which had just been curled up to rest, immediately stretched out 3 sections of its body, and then the poor passerby, before he could fully react, had already become a prisoner of the mantis's sharp hook. Chapter 88, Mantis Skills. It was pressed between the 2 rows of saw teeth of the mantis and could not move. Then, the mantis clamped its pincers tightly, and all the battle was over. Whether it was a locust, a grasshopper, or even other stronger insects, they could not escape the slaughter of these 4 rows of sharp saw teeth. So once caught, they had no choice but to surrender. The mantis is really an incredible insect-killing machine. There was such a gray locust that was unaware of danger and fearless, and it jumped towards the mantis head-on. The latter, that is, the mantis, immediately showed an extremely angry attitude, and then reacted very quickly to make a particularly surprising posture, which made the little locust, which was originally not afraid of anything, full of fear at this moment. This strange appearance of the mantis is rarely seen by ordinary people. The mantis spread its wings extremely, and its wings stood up and stood upright like sails. With its wings erected on its back, the mantis bends the upper part of its body, which looks like a crutch with a bent handle, and rises and falls from time to time. Not only is the movement strange, but it also makes a sound at the same time. The sound is particularly like the sound made by a poisonous snake when it exhales. The mantis places its entire body on its hind legs. Obviously, it has assumed a posture that is ready to face a challenge at any time. Because the mantis has completely erected the front half of its body, and the forearms that are ready to block and kill at any time have long been opened, revealing the black and white spots. Who can say that such a posture is not a posture of being ready for battle at any time? After making this amazing posture, the mantis remains motionless, with its eyes fixed on its enemy, staring at its captive, ready to go into battle at any time and welcome the fierce battle. Even if the locust moves slightly, the mantis will immediately turn its head and never take its eyes off the locust. The purpose of the mantis's dead-marking tactics is very obvious. It is mainly to take advantage of the opponent's fear and continue to put greater fear into the heart of the opponent, who will soon become a victim, creating a fueling the fire effect and exerting greater pressure on the opponent. The mantis hopes to put the enemy in front of it in a disadvantageous position due to fear before the battle begins, so as to achieve the goal of defeating it without fighting. Therefore, the mantis now needs to bluff and pretend to be a ferocious monster, using psychological tactics to deal with the enemy in front of it. From this point of view, the mantis is really a psychological expert. Obviously, the mantis's carefully planned and designed battle plan is very successful. The little locust, who was fearless at the beginning, really fell into the mantis's trick and really regarded it as a ferocious monster. When the locust saw the mantis's strange appearance, it was stunned and stared at the weird guy in front of it tightly, not daring to move. Before finding out who the visitor is, it dared not easily launch any offensive against the opponent. As a result, the locust, which was always good at jumping around, was now at a loss. It even forgot to jump up and run away. The panicked locust completely forgot the 36 strategies. Running away is the best strategy. The poor little locust was extremely scared and timidly lay there, not daring to make any sound. It was afraid that it would die if it was not careful. When it was most scared, it even moved forward for no reason and approached the mantis. It was so panicked that it was ready to die. It seemed that the mantis' psychological tactics were completely successful. When the poor locust moved to the point where the mantis could just touch it, the mantis immediately used its weapons without any courtesy or mercy, hitting the poor locust heavily with its powerful palm and then pressing it tightly with its 2 saws. So, no matter how stubbornly the little captive resisted, it was useless. Next, the cruel devil victor began to chew its spoils. It must feel very proud. In this way, Treating the enemy like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves is the mantis's unchanging creed. No mistake, one post, one content, one 6 to 9 book, one forum, one look. The purple mantis found that it was quite gluttonous. After a short while, it actually ate a locust, 2 grasshoppers, a spider, and 4 flies that were not much different in size from itself. Am I really that hungry? Cuckoo followed 2 burps, and it felt a little full this time. Hey! This time it was full. It blew a big breath, and at the same time raised 2 serrated vices upwards, stretching out a big lazy waist. I always feel sleepy after a full meal. I have to take a good nap, purple mantis thought. After a while, the snoring sound of snoring came from the bushes. Our best supporting actor is here. The perilla mantis is sleeping soundly. Suddenly, a very dangerous smell woke the perilla mantis from its dream, and a pungent fishy wind blew in its face. In a flash, the perilla mantis immediately rolled 18 times on the spot to the side, barely avoiding the fatal blow. Then, it took off from the ground and spread its wings, and quickly turned its head to look down and back. It turned out to be a lizard that was several times larger than it and had been eyeing it for a long time and was extremely ugly. Although the ugly lizard pounced on it, its pounce made the perilla mantis sweat all over. This also made perilla more clearly aware that there are dangers everywhere in the forest and grass, and you may die at any time. For the mantis, although there is a lot of food, there are also many natural enemies, such as lizards, venomous snakes, scorpions, mice, big toads and various flying birds, especially sparrows. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Crisis. Even without natural enemies, the mantis community is full of murderous intent. Mantises are cruel and murderous by nature. Brothers and sisters kill each other, and even wives usually kill and eat their husbands when feeding their offspring. It is said that this nutrition is beneficial to the continuation of the family line. It can be seen that the mantis family is the most inhumane creature. No, they are not human at all. Therefore, mantises are also the most lonely creatures. They cannot be gregarious. Being gregarious will inevitably put their lives in danger. What's more, the purple mantis is still a male mantis. In this case, purple mantis obviously cannot return to the mantis society. Where should I go to make a living? Purple mantis thought, I can't just sit here and wait for death, waiting for another rebirth, right? This is too useless and cowardly, right? It's even more cowardly than being in the Japanese Blue, Cowardly, Army. If so, how can I have the nerve to ask others to take care of me when I reincarnate next time? What should I do? What should I do? Purple mantis felt that this problem was going to make her head explode. Suddenly, it felt an idea. Yes, since I am not suitable for living in the forest, why don't I go back to the ant colony? But now I am a mantis, not Lieutenant Colonel Zissou. Will the Red Ant Army still accept me? If they can't accept me, then is there any point in me going back to the ant colony? In other words, it is unlikely that I will become a regular soldier of the Red Ant Army. However, I can become their armed work team behind enemy lines and start work behind enemy lines. Yes, I can fight guerrilla warfare behind enemy lines, secretly help the Red Ant Army, and reduce their pressure in frontal combat. This can also be regarded as a compensation for Lieutenant Colonel Zissou's failure to complete the mission. After thinking through this, Zissou felt a shock all over his body, and felt that his fighting spirit was burning again, and he felt full of energy. He immediately flew towards the enemy's flea training camp. Although he didn't fly as easily as a dragonfly, and he had to rest after flying a short distance, he still kept flying towards his destination. Flying and flying, stopping and stopping, flying and flying again, stopping and stopping again. Gradually, it got closer and closer to the flea training camp of the Japanese Blue Army. When the sun was about to set, it finally saw the flea training camp. After lurking in the bushes next to the large plain, Zissou carefully observed the movements around and found that this place was far less guarded than the first flea cavalry camp. There were only a few sentries in 2s and 3s, and sentries in several guard towers. There were no soldiers in other places, let alone patrol soldiers. It seems that the enemy is more assured here. After all, they think that the possible threat has been eliminated and they can rest assured. Zissou Mantis thought, wait until the second half of the night, when it is quiet, I will sneak into the training camp, find the flea circle, and kill all the fleas in it with my powerful serrated pliers. Let them know how powerful I am, he. Thinking of this, Zissou couldn't help but laugh. This is really secretly happy. But isn't it a little early to be happy at this time? That's right, I will laugh loudly after I succeed. I want to laugh loudly. I will tell them, Hu Hanshan, am back again, haha. Just when Zissou was thinking wildly in his mind, the sky became darker and darker, and soon it was completely dark. At this time, Zissou also found a problem. He was like ants and humans. He couldn't see. Without light, how could he find those fleas? From this point of view, creatures like mantises are not suitable for night action. What should I do? Did my perfect plan go wrong before it was executed? Zissou thought anxiously, hey. Why am I so unlucky? Why don't I reincarnate into a creature with night vision? It's over, this time it's completely hopeless. Zissou kept complaining to himself here. Suddenly, the mantis Zissou found that the sky began to brighten. What's going on? It can't be so early, right? Zissou Mantis thought, this must be an illusion, I must still be in a dream and haven't woken up. Otherwise, I will use the serrated pliers to gently cut my stomach to see if it hurts. Ouch! It really hurts. Was it not a dream? It is really dawn. No, it is not so fast. I looked at it. Why are the edges of my eyes darker, and there seems to be a faint green light? Wow! Can it be that I really have night vision? Haha! I am such a fool. I have night vision but I don't even know it. Hey! I really worried in vain. I feel relieved now and I am not anxious anymore. Soon, Zissou was relieved and quietly waited for the arrival of the second half of the night. After a long time, I was waiting here alone again. I felt lonely. I couldn't help but think of the lyrics of Yang Ziering in the Peking opera, Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy. He hummed softly, crossing the forest and snowy plains, I am full of energy. Expressing my lofty sentiments and ambitions, facing the mountains. May the red flag fly across the world, even if it is a sea of fire and a mountain of swords, I will rush forward. I wish I could quickly melt the flying snow into spring water, to welcome the spring scenery and change the world. The party gave me wisdom and courage, I took on all kinds of difficulties and dangers, to suppress the bandits. I first pretended to be a bandit, like a sharp knife inserted into the Tiger Mountain. I vowed to bury the mountain eagle in the mountain stream. My ambition shook the mountains, and my ambition shook the abyss. When I meet my comrades at the 100 Chickens Feast, I will destroy the bandit's nest and turn it upside down. Just as the gorilla mantis was concentrating and forgetting everything else, humming the famous lyrics of Yang Ziering's Going Up a Mountain to Fight the Tiger in the Peking opera, Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy, suddenly, there was a rustling sound behind him, followed by a cold and smelly wind. It reacted quickly and immediately jumped forward, then kicked the ground with its hind legs and flapped its wings, turning its head 180 degrees while flying. Chapter 90, Night Raid on the Enemy Camp. Wow! It turned out to be a little green snake with bad intentions. It seems that there are dangers and traps everywhere in the forest and bushes. You can't stay in any place for a long time, otherwise, your life may be in danger. Before the second half of the night, the purple mantis moved to many places, almost once every quarter of an hour. It was also frightened by those conspirators who liked to attack it. After midnight, it moved to a place not far from the back door of the flea training camp. Now it is the middle of the night, a good time to attack. Purple mantis gently flapped its wings and flew towards the enemy camp calmly. It looked for flea pens everywhere, and soon found the flea pens in the southwest corner of the flea training camp. When it flew closer, a snoring sound came. It knew that these fleas were already asleep. God really helped me. I will let you sleep enough, and never think about it. When Zissou thought of this, as soon as he landed, he kicked his thighs and flew into an open window of the flea pen. As soon as he landed, his feet stepped on a big flea. The big flea screamed in pain and sat up. However, before it opened its eyes and screamed a second time, Zissou's soul-snatching mantis knife had already cut the flea's head off and killed it. Although it was night now, it was no different from daytime for Zissou. He could see clearly that there were a total of 128 big fleas here. Without any delay or show, he came like a whirlwind of evil spirits. In just a cup of tea, all the fleas that were still sleeping soundly went to report to the King of Hell. After killing the big fleas in this training camp, Zissou did not stop there, but flew towards the enemy's fleet cavalry camp in one go. That time, it took several days for it to crawl on the ground as an ant from the cavalry camp to the training camp. This time, it took only half a day for it to get from the training camp to the cavalry camp as a mantis. However, it was already bright at this time, and it was no longer suitable for action. This time, Zissou learned his lesson and landed far away from the cavalry camp to hide. It quietly crawled into the grass beside the main road leading to the main gate of the cavalry camp and found a small tree, not too high, not far in front. So it flew to this small tree, which was both hidden and safe, and it was not afraid of sneak attacks from natural enemies on the ground such as snakes and lizards. Because if the natural enemies on the ground want to attack and kill Zissou, they must first climb up the tree, so the action must not be fast, and it is easy for Zissou to find it and escape in time. In addition, there are many leaves on the tree to provide cover for Zissou, and it is not easy to be found by birds. This is really killing two birds with one stone. The Zissou mantis hiding in the tree felt safe and relaxed. After a while, it felt sleepy and fell asleep soon. After all, it didn't sleep all night last night, especially in the second half of the night. It was exhausted from killing fleas and running long distances. It was reasonable for it to sleep soundly at this time. This sleep was really long and sweet. Since it was safe here and no one disturbed it, it was already the second watch of the night when it woke up after getting enough sleep, not far from the third watch of the night. It opened its eyes and saw that it was dark at first and couldn't see anything. After a while, the sky gradually brightened. No. To be more precise, its eyes could see the surrounding things more and more clearly. It now knew that its night vision was working. Why is it so late? The Parilla mantis thought, what time is it now? I really slept for a long time. Suddenly, the gurgling sound came from its stomach again, and it felt a little hungry. So it had to fill its stomach before moving at night. Isn't there a saying, the emperor has no hungry soldiers? Besides, I don't work for the emperor, I work for myself, and the emperor is me. A perfect poem, a post, a content, a book, a forum, a 6 to 9 book, a forum. It turned out that it took a long time to prepare this meal, more than 10 times longer than the average person. It took about 3 hours to hunt and kill, and it caught 3 grasshoppers, 8 flying insects and 4 spiders, and finally had a full stomach. Now that you are full, should you go to work? Of course, our brother Zissou is a model of dedication, otherwise he would be a glutton. It's getting late. Let's stop talking. After a while, brother Zissou picked up his devil-serrated knife, shook himself up and set off. It flew non-stop to the enemy's fleet cavalry camp, and started a massacre with almost no suspense. The enemy was frightened and pissed. From then on, the rumor that the devil flew down from the sky in the middle of the night, and the serrated devil knife suppressed the monsters soon spread in the world. Obviously, the world here is not the world of humans, but the world of ants. The Parilla mantis has therefore earned the dual nicknames of Flying Devil and Flying God. Chapter 91, Flying Demon. Why is this so? It's very simple. In the Japanese Blue Army, everyone is very afraid of it, so they call it the Flying Devil. In the Red Ant Army, everyone is very grateful to it, so they call it the Flying God. As for the rumors outside, Shizou didn't know anything at this time. It still did what it thought it should do. After killing all the enemy's fleet cavalry, it planned to find the enemy's proud planes, the stink bug bomber and Zero fighter to start. However, it didn't know where these enemy planes were. Who should I ask? Shizou thought, yes, I'd better go to the turtle grandson of Colonel Prostate. Just when Shizou Mantis was looking for Prostate, Colonel Prostate also thought that Shizou Mantis would look for him. This scared Colonel Prostate. Since the fleet cavalry that Colonel Prostate worked hard to manage was eliminated by Shizou Mantis, it hid in the caves dug by the ant soldiers every day, both during the day and at night. It also asked its subordinates to store a lot of food in the cave. Fortunately, the cave was relatively humid, and there was a little groundwater that seeped in, so it didn't die of thirst. At this moment, the purple mantis actually went to settle accounts with Colonel Prostate in broad daylight, but the most important thing was to ask him where the Japanese Blue Army's plane was parked. As soon as Purple Mantis appeared in the fleet cavalry camp, the Japanese Blue Army was scared and fled in all directions. After all, the name of Flying Demon is not a false name. It has already scared them out of their wits. Now they have no confidence to fight at all. Seeing this group of Japanese Blue Army become a real cowardly army in front of him, Purple Mantis was happy and wanted to laugh. Thinking of being caught and beaten by them and beheaded, Purple Mantis now feels a heroic mood of singing like a liberated serf. It's so cool. Obviously, how can those ants without wings run faster than the mantises with wings and much larger than them? Mantis Shizo easily caught up with them, and mercilessly used his executioner the serrated pincers to cut them all in half. Not long after, the ground was crawling with ants that were chopped in half, and they must not live long. In fact, facing this ferocious Shizo mantis, as long as the ants united as one, formed a tight formation, and fired formic acid bombs at Shizo in time, they would still have the strength to fight. Because formic acid is too corrosive, ordinary creatures cannot resist it. It's a pity that the commander of the Japanese Blue Army was so scared that he hid in the cave, and other junior officers and soldiers were also scared. So they didn't dare to organize resistance at all. They had already forgotten their powerful weapon, formic acid, and they only thought about how to escape. Shizo easily found the entrance of the cave where Colonel Prostate was hiding by grabbing the tongue of a Japanese blue soldier. However, they didn't expect that the burrows dug by the Japanese soldier ants were too small, so a mantis with such a big body couldn't get in at all. There was no other way, so the purple mantis had to shout at the entrance of the tunnel, "Prostate, you bastard, get out of here and I will spare your life." Unexpectedly, a voice came out from the cave in response to it. "I am Colonel Prostate, a top student of the Imperial University of Wallen and the future hope of the Imperial Army. How could I believe your lies? I will never go out to work." Zisu asked, "Are you really not coming out?" Colonel Prostate said, "I just won't come out, and I won't come out if I say I won't come out." Zisu said, "Are you like a useless coward, hiding in here forever and never coming out?" Colonel Prostate replied, "I'm not a coward. I work like a real man who can bend and stretch." Zisu heard this and said angrily, "Bah! You are hiding in there pretending to be a grandson, and you are still a real man. Do you want to learn from Hanzin to endure the humiliation of being fucked by others? I don't think you are qualified at all." Colonel Prostate said, "Who is Hanzin? We have never heard of him. However, we do know the crotch, which is where we humans, the gods, urinate. My name is just a little bit above the place where humans urinate, even higher than the position of the thigh general and the calf colonel. We are very honored to work here." Zisu said, "You are simply a shameless rogue. It really makes me angry." Suddenly, there was a thunder in the distance, and it seemed that it was about to rain. No mistake, one poem, one post, one content, 1619, one book, one bar. Take a look. Zisu had an idea and said, "It will rain heavily soon. I will pour rainwater into the hole and drown you, you bastard." Unexpectedly, the prostate colonel said, "Our Japanese Blue Ant Army is an expert at digging tunnels. How can we worry about such a small problem?" Zisu had no way to deal with the sharp, slippery, smelly and hard stones in the prostate toilet, so he left before the heavy rain came and went to find a place to shelter from the rain. After this incident, the purple mantis did not bother Colonel Prostate anymore. It had to go somewhere else to look for the Japanese Blue Army's planes. A few days later, it finally found the enemy's base camp. Purple mantis thought, since it is the base camp, there may be enemy planes. Anyway, I have night vision, so I am not in a hurry. It will not be too late to attack when the enemy is asleep in the middle of the night. After all, there are too many enemy soldiers during the day, and they can also fire formic acid bombs. If they are splashed with formic acid bombs, it would be like humans being splashed with sulfuric acid, which is not a joke. It is better to be safe than sorry. After midnight, the flying demon purple mantis attacked again. It tried to find a more remote place to fly to avoid the enemy's sentries and patrols. This is the enemy's base camp, with a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 5 steps, and it is heavily guarded. Chapter 92 Danger is coming. It seems difficult not to alert the enemy at all. Zisu thought of a solution that was not a solution. It hid in a relatively hidden and dark corner and killed all the enemy patrols that passed by here. After killing the patrols, it went to the next relatively hidden and dark corner and did the same thing. In this way, after it almost killed all the patrols, it killed the sentries that were not conducive to its actions one by one. Although it was risky to do this, at least it would not alert the enemy for a while. It wanted to take advantage of this time difference and destroy the enemy's planes, the stink bug bombers, before the enemy found it. In this way, the purple mantis finally found the enemy's stink bug bombers. Next, it took advantage of the stink bugs still sleeping soundly, and strangled them one by one with its terrifying serrated pincers at lightning speed. After completing its mission, it took off into the air and flapped its wings and flew away. After it flew away, not long after, the enemy's newly sent patrol team found something wrong and hurried over to check. They found the bodies of patrolmen and sentinels everywhere, so they waved their tentacles and shouted, "Murder! There is an assassin! There is an assassin!" Then they went to the airport to check and found that their bombers' stink bugs were all dead. Within 2 days, this incident once again caused a great shock in the ant world, especially in the country of Wallen. Now, Shizo has another hat, called Shadowless Killer. When the ants heard this name, they all turned pale and kept silent. Soon, the king of Wallen, Big Stomach King, personally convened an emergency military meeting for this purpose, and discussed with the cabinet ministers and generals about the relevant matters of killing Shizo, the Shadowless Killer. Everyone spoke and expressed their opinions. However, the meeting lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and no plan that everyone agreed on was put forward. Everyone's ideas have their own advantages and disadvantages, and none of them are perfect. Finally, a newly promoted young man, the deputy commander of the Air Force named Mei Changmeo, suggested, "Since this Shadowless Killer is flying around in the sky and our ground forces can do nothing about it, why don't we hand over the task of destroying it to our secret weapon, the newest aircraft, the Zero Fighter?" A cabinet minister asked. "Are you sure of winning the job?" Mei Changmeo said, "Although our Zero Fighter does not have the same serrated pincers as the Shadowless Killer, we have tiger teeth and a larger body. In addition, we have a large number of aircraft, and no matter how powerful it is just an ordinary man. This is called a single tree cannot support a tree, and a single hand cannot clap." Everyone thought his explanation was good, and soon reached a consensus and decided to adopt his suggestion, letting their most powerful weapon, the Zero Fighter, carry out the task of destroying the Shadowless Killer. The so-called Zero Fighter of the Japanese Blue Army is actually a kind of large locust that they have domesticated. It has a body several times larger than that of a mantis, flies farther than a mantis, and has a mouth that is much larger than that of a mantis, and has serrated tiger teeth. Let's put it this way. If it is a one-on-one, Shizo can easily defeat the opponent. If it is a one-on-two, Shizo Mantis also has a slight advantage. If it is a one-on-three, Shizo will be difficult to deal with, but it is not difficult to break out and escape. If it is a one-on-4 or more, Shizo will find it difficult to get away, and will lose if the battle lasts for a long time. This is called one punch cannot beat four hands, and one tiger cannot beat a pack of wolves. Speaking of which, the enemy Air Force deputy commander is still very smart. He intuitively believes that using a flying squadron of 5 Zero fighters to deal with Shizo Mantis will at least not suffer a loss. Therefore, he sent a total of 18 such flying squadrons, and began to search for his traces in a large area in places where Shizo might appear, in order to annihilate him in one fell swoop. At this time, Shizo was still in the dark, not knowing that a storm against it had quietly unfolded. Now, it would kill the Japanese Blue Army as soon as it saw it, without mercy. As a result, the nickname of Flying Devil became more and more popular, and it has reached the point where it can stop infants and young children from crying at any time of the day or night. In other words, when a child is crying, just say the Flying Devil is coming, and the child will immediately stop crying and become obedient, and will also tremble and whisper to the parents, where? Let's say that the Japanese Blue Army sent 18 squadrons of 90 Zero fighters big locusts every day to conduct a carpet search for Shizo Mantises. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar. Look, as long as you see a mantis, no matter what, you will immediately surround it and kill it. In this way, many of Shizo's innocent compatriots, mantises, were killed, and they didn't know why they died before they died, and they all became innocent ghosts. After killing so many mantises, these Zero fighters big locusts also felt that it was too boring and unchallenging, and they were a little tired. They thought, these mantises are so bad, and the Flying Devil Shizo is just a mantis, how can it be so powerful and scary? Could it be a rumor spread by word of mouth, deliberately scaring them? As more and more mantises were easily killed, the big locusts felt that everyone overestimated the Flying Devil, and they relaxed their vigilance and slacked off. From then on, they were too lazy to take the initiative when they saw the mantis, and even adopted the strategy of first courtesy, then force. Before killing someone, they would first ask, "Hey, boy, "Are you the flying devil or the invisible killer?" The other party would most likely say, "Which eye of yours saw that I am a devil or a killer?" "Psycho," a large locust said angrily, "how dare you call me a lunatic? I will kill you." The mantis was frightened and hurriedly explained, "My lord, I am not scolding you. How dare I scold you? Even if you give me 8 guts, I would not dare to do it. I am just saying that I am indeed not the killer you are looking for." Chapter 93, Understanding the Enemy. Another big locust asked politely, "Have you seen this fellow of yours?" The mantis thought for a moment and said, "I really dare not lie to you, sir. I have not seen it, but I have heard that it seems to have appeared in this area before. Ah. Is it true or false?" The locusts were immediately surprised and said in unison, "It is hard to say whether this is true or false. I just heard it from someone," the mantis said. A leading big locust said, "You have provided some valuable information. We will spare you this time. Next time if you have any useful information, remember to inform us in time. We will definitely reward you handsomely. Let's go." After saying that, he flew away with his brothers. This was also the first time they put down their butcher knives and became Buddhas on the spot. After receiving this information that was difficult to distinguish between true and false, the locust leader said to his brothers, "Everyone, be alert. This is probably where the flying demon is active. We must be extremely vigilant." "Yes, leader," the locusts said in unison. After a long while, a sharp-eyed locust suddenly said, "There is a praying mantis sleeping on that short tree. How about we go ask him now?" The locust leader said, "Of course. Fly over and ask him." The other locusts immediately flew over and surrounded him. The locust leader said, "Hey, boy, wake up, don't sleep anymore. I want to ask you something." The praying mantis opened his eyes and said, "Why are you making so much noise so early in the morning? It's not a good thing to disturb people's sleep." "Oh, I have a question for you. You are so arrogant. Do you believe we will kill you now?" a locust said viciously. Unexpectedly, the praying mantis said, "Little kids like to use violence. I'm talking to your parents." Seeing this, the locust leader said impatiently, "Okay, stop arguing. Mr. Praying Mantis, I want to ask you, are you the flying demon or the shadowless killer?" "Ah. What did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Please say it again," the praying mantis said. At the same time, it thought, "I can't be that famous, right? It seems that these guys are here with bad intentions." It turns out that this mantis is our Shizo. The locust leader had to repeat it patiently. Shizo was naturally not stupid enough to admit it. It said, "Of course I am not a demon or killer. However, I heard that it came to this area 2 days ago." "Ah. It's true. You are not lying to us, are you?" "Why should I lie to you? Believe it or not, it's up to you. I still need to sleep. If you don't have anything else, please don't disturb my sleep, okay?" "I haven't slept enough," Shizo said lazily. "Boy, seeing how arrogant you are, I wish I could kill you right now," a big locust said angrily. "Forget it. Considering that it has provided us with valuable information, let's forgive its unreasonableness this time. Let's go," the locust leader said. After a while, the group of locusts disappeared without a trace. Shizo Mantis finally felt that the real battle was about to begin. It knew that its advantage was fighting at night, but its disadvantage was fighting alone. It looked like it could only sleep during the day and work at night. What kind of work? Of course, it would work by surprise. In this way, the Parilla Mantis had a good sleep during the day, and had a full meal after waking up. In the middle of the night, it sneaked out to work again like a night owl. This time it was more clever than before. First, it tried to avoid enemy checkpoints and patrols as much as possible. If it couldn't avoid them, it would kill them quickly and hide the bodies in a hidden place. No mistakes. Secondly, it touched the enemy's Zero fighter hangar, which was the dormitory where the locusts slept. It didn't dare to rush in as before, but listened carefully to the movement first, and then used its important weapon, the serrated pliers, to gently knock on their dormitory door to listen to their reaction. The knocking did indeed produce a response. A large locust that was on duty but dozing off heard the noise and couldn't help but shouting with excitement, "Who?" It turned out that the enemy's deputy Air Force commander had no hair. Based on the bitter lessons of the past, the experience he had learned was that fleas and stink bugs were killed in large numbers because there was no person on duty at night. So from then on, every night when the Zero fighter locust went to bed, there must be at least 2 locusts on duty. Tonight, Zissou happened to encounter two large locusts on night duty. One was resting with his eyes closed, and the other was the locust that made the noise, dozing off. He was awakened by the noise. The silent locust immediately covered the mouth of the locust that made the noise with its claws and whispered to it, "Hush." It meant not to make a sound, otherwise it would alert the enemy. Unfortunately, it was too late at this time. Zissou understood that the enemy was already prepared, and if he went in again, he would be caught in a trap. So he had to evacuate quietly. It seems that the so-called Zero fighters should be those domesticated locusts. Why did the sound made by the collective dormitory of the Zero fighters just now sound so similar to the voices of the locusts I saw during the day? Yes, it was them. Since we can't deal with them at night, let's deal with them during the day. But how to deal with them during the day? Humph. Go find the female spider. As long as I don't eat her, she will flatter me and do things for me obediently. Big locusts, you actually want to frame me, your grandfather. You have a very bad conscience. This time, let's see how I, your grandfather, will play with you. After flying out of the enemy's base camp, the purple mantis rushed to the forest overnight and began to look for the spider sister carefully. After a while, on a low branch, purple mantis found a female spider sleeping soundly on the web she had woven. Chapter 94, Spiders Help in the Battle. Zissou rushed up and kicked her on the butt and scolded her, "Wake up, get up. It's getting late. You lazy woman, you are still sleeping in, it's outrageous." The female spider opened her eyes and saw that it was a praying mantis. She woke up in fright and said, "Brother Mantis, I didn't expect it was you. If you want to eat me, wait until I have a good sleep." Zissou Mantis said, "I don't want to eat you today. I just want you to do something for me," the female spider asked in confusion. "It's still dark, what can you do?" Zissou said, "It's already 3 o'clock in the morning. The rooster has crowed 3 times, and you still want to sleep in?" The female spider said, "That's the rooster crowing in the middle of the night. Only those poor people with families will get up in the middle of the night to work for the landlords. I am the one who one person eats and the whole family is not hungry. I won't be stupid enough to get up in the middle of the night to work for others." Zissou said, "If you get up right now and work for me, there will be a table full of delicious food waiting for you. If you don't want to work for me, I will eat you right away. You make your choice." The female spider immediately smiled and said, "Of course I am willing to work for you, big brother. Then I'll tell you now, do you see the lush tree in front of you? You can weave more webs on the branches inside the leaves, and then I will lure the prey to the web you weave. Do you understand?" "I understand. The web I weave will satisfy you." "Okay. I'm leaving." Then, Zissou flew away and went to find another female spider. Time is short and the task is urgent. It is not enough to rely on one spider alone, and more spiders must be found. After a while, he found another huge female spider, and kicked her rudely to wake her up, saying, "Get up and get to work." The big female spider asked, "It's not even dawn yet, why are you getting up? What are you working for?" "Brother Mantis, don't mess with me, I'm a big poisonous spider, I'll give you a shot and you'll be dead." Zissou said, "I'm not here to cause you trouble, I'm here to discuss business with you. I have a big deal. As long as you cooperate with me, I promise to let you eat delicious food and drink spicy drinks, and soon there will be a large table of delicacies waiting for you." "Really? You didn't lie to me." The big female spider couldn't help drooling when she heard it. She hadn't had a full meal for several days. Every day she only ate small insects such as flies and mosquitoes, which was not enough for a huge spider like her. When she heard that there was a large table of delicious food waiting for her today, she was so happy. "Just do it according to my requirements," Zissou said, and then she told the big female spider her plan again. In this way, the mantis Shih found 7 or 8 female spiders to work for it. These female spiders heard that there was a big table of delicious food waiting for them, and they were very enthusiastic about working. Before 9 o'clock in the morning, they had woven dense spider webs on the branches of the lush tree designated by Shih. After completing the task assigned by Shih in a timely and satisfactory manner, they were waiting for the prey to take the bait. Now, Shih was lying on a very hidden leaf in the inner part. It said to the female spiders, "I will take a nap now. If anyone finds the big locusts flying over later, remember to call me. They are our prey." "Got it. Brother Mantis, you can sleep at ease. When they come, we will wake you up," the female spiders said. "That's good." Not long after, There was a snoring sound of snoring here, and the Shih Tzu mantis fell asleep. There was no movement outside all morning. At 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a squadron of Zero fighters slowly and stop and go flew towards the short tree. Here they come. Brother Mantis, get up quickly, the female spiders shouted. When the Perilla Mantis woke up, it really came. The show began. In a blink of an eye, Perilla flew out from the leaves and landed on the outermost leaf. Facing the big locusts that came to the door, it shouted loudly, "Hey! You idiots, what are you looking for? Grandpa is the flying devil you are looking for. If you have the guts, come and kill me." The big locusts were really scared when they heard it, and couldn't help asking, "Are you really the flying devil?" "No way. The flying devil is not so stupid. Will it admit that it is waiting for us to kill it? Impossible, no mistake. One post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum, one look." One of the locusts actually recognized Zisu. "Boy, aren't you the mantis who liked to sleep in and was rude to us last time? Did you take the wrong medicine today? Do you want to die?" Another locust interjected, "A person must know how to cherish his own life. Life is short. Don't joke with your own life." Seeing this, Zisu said with a smile, "Why don't you believe it? I am the flying devil and the shadowless killer. I did lie to you last time, and I shouldn't have. But I definitely didn't lie to you this time." A locust said, "Boy, are you heartbroken and don't want to live anymore? Hey. It's normal for young people to suffer some setbacks. Whose life is smooth sailing? Just like the 5 of us brothers, we are all single now. But we are all open-minded. We eat when we should eat, drink when we should drink, and play with women when we should play with women. Look how happy we are." Zisu was a little confused by the locust's tricks. How come these idiots, when they are about to die, are still trying to persuade me, as if I were a backward youth who needed to be saved? It's really strange. Unexpectedly, these days, everyone believes lies, but no one believes the truth. Zisu frowned and came up with a plan. "Yesterday, I asked someone to make inquiries carefully and found out the current specific accommodations of the flying demon and the shadowless killer you are looking for." "Really? Where are they?" the locust leader said. "Boy, you'd better not lie to us. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious." Zisu smiled and said, "I can tell you. However, I have a condition. You must agree to it before I will tell you." "Boy, tell me quickly," the locust leader said again. "Do you think you are qualified to negotiate with us?" Chapter 95, Teasing the Locust Army. Zisu said calmly, "Either you accept my conditions, or you kill me. I don't care, anyway, the initiative is in your hands." The locust had thought, "What is this condition? This kid doesn't seem to be afraid of death, so I'll ask what the condition is first." So it asked, "What are the conditions?" "If you have to fart, do it quickly," Zisu said. "Let's play a little game of hide and seek first." Then, it pointed to the short tree where the trap was set and said, "See this small tree behind me? I'll hide in it later, and see if you can find me in the shortest time. If you can find me in the shortest time, you win. I will tell you everything I know." The locust had asked, "Isn't this just hide and seek? It's that simple? Is there a time limit?" "Of course there is," Zisu said. "Just ask one of your brothers to run around this small tree 10 times. It will be valid only if he finds me within these 10 laps. Is that okay?" The locust had said, "No problem. Let's start now." "Okay." Zisu turned around and flew into the leaves behind him. The locust leader hurriedly said, "Second brother, you are responsible for circling around this tree. The other brothers follow me to catch the bad boy. Let's start." After saying that, it took the lead and rushed into the leaves of the small tree in front, and the other locusts followed closely. The second locust began to fly around the small tree non-stop. Of course, Perilla will not fly to the branches. Wherever there are more leaves, it will go there. However, the big locusts did not know what was going on. They thought it was an ordinary hide-and-seek game and wanted to fly to the branches to rest first. Unexpectedly, there were traps everywhere here. After a while, the locusts fell into the spider web one by one and could not get out. When the locust leader saw that he was trapped in the spider web and could not move, he immediately realized that he had been fooled, and hurriedly shouted, "We have been fooled. There are traps everywhere here. Brothers, get out quickly." Unfortunately, it was too late. When the female spiders saw it, they were all overjoyed and ran up to give the big locusts injections. As long as the injection is given, The prey will be paralyzed and die quickly, and then the muscles will melt and become the spider's delicacy. At this time, a not-so-big female spider climbed onto the back of a locust and was about to give it an injection. Unexpectedly, the locust begged for mercy. "My aunt, no, my dear aunt, please don't give me the injection, okay? Please spare my life. In the next life, I will find ways to repay you for saving my life." The female spider smiled and said, "My aunt, I don't want you to repay me in the next life. It's too useless. I just want your fat body, and you can repay me in this life." The locust was scared and said hurriedly, "Then I will lose my life." The female spider said, "If you lose your life, you lose your life. Start a new life in the next life and be a good person. You don't have to be like this life, eating, drinking, gambling, smoking, and having all the 5 vices. This is what you said just now, and I heard it with my own ears. Now I am too lazy to talk nonsense with you. I will give you an injection first." As the locust shouted help, the female spider stabbed the locust with an injection without caring, but found that the needle could not penetrate. Suddenly, she said anxiously, "Sisters, come and help me. This guy's skin is too thick. My needle can't even penetrate it." A female spider said, "Sister, you are really an unlucky person. Such a delicious food is in front of you, but you can only look at it but not eat it." The little female spider begged hurriedly, "Sister, please don't be angry with me. Sister, I beg you, can you lend me your big poison needle for a while?" The big female spider said, "That will have to wait until I am full and drunk." Seeing this, the locust said, "Please, 2 ladies, please stop making trouble. Just let me go, wouldn't it be much easier?" The little female spider said angrily, "Don't even think about it. Maybe in the next life, I will let you go." The locust said painfully, "Oh, why am I so unlucky? I actually fell into the hands of you female evil stars who kill people without blinking an eye. My life is so miserable. It seems that before I am killed by your poison needle, I will be angered to death by you first." The little female spider said mockingly, "It's not bitter, not at all. Have you forgotten how happy you were just now? You enjoyed eating, drinking and having fun. Unlike us spider sisters, what kind of life do we live every day? We eat one meal and have no next meal. Today I finally met this delicious meal of yours. Do you think I can let you go? Am I a stupid girl?" The locust sighed and said, "You are not stupid, I am stupid. Who made me fall into the trap?" After thinking for a while, the locust finally woke up and said, "Ah, I know. We were fooled by that guy. That guy must be a bad guy. He set a trap long ago and deliberately lured us into the trap. We all fell into the trap." The little female spider said, "You are talking about Brother Mantis. That's right, he just wants to lure you fools into the trap. For your feast, we sisters were called by Big Brother Mantis to weave spider webs and set traps before daybreak, and we waited for you for most of the day. Do you think it's easy for us? You are really talking without any pain in your waist, and a full man does not know the hunger of a hungry man." The locust was very angry and said, "So you are more right than me to eat me, and you don't allow me to complain. Where in the world can you find such an unreasonable woman as you? It's really infuriating." While the little female spider was climbing on the back of the big locust and arguing with it, the second locust was circling around the small tree outside the short tree, flying breathlessly, and silently counting circles in his heart. 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles, 7 circles, 8 circles, 9 circles. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, Flirting with His Second Brother. When the second locust was about to count the number of circles, he suddenly heard the purple mantis shouting, "I was caught by you again. I admit defeat. Brother locust who was circling outside the tree, you have worked hard. Please come in and have a rest, drink some water and eat some delicious food. I will take you to find the so-called flying devil." The second locust was overjoyed when he heard it. "Boy, you finally learned to be smart. You also know that it is not easy for me to circle outside. I am really thirsty and tired now. I just want to drink some water and eat something." "Not bad, you are promising. When I go back, I will definitely propose to the Deputy Commander of the Air Force, Mei Changmeo, to let you be the Deputy Commander of the Locust Association Army. Why can the second locust only hear the call of purple mantis, but not the call of the eldest? Because their eldest's voice is low and hoarse, while purple mantis's voice is broad and loud. After all, it is a Peking opera singer. As the silly second locust pounced into the leaves, he fell into the trap with a plop. The second locust was confused and said to himself, "Why are there so many spider webs here? Did I go to the wrong place?" "No, you're not wrong." A larger female spider on the edge of the web crawled towards it and said, "We are catching you. If you didn't fall into our trap, how could I have the pleasure of eating this delicious meal of yours?" Then, the female spider quickly crawled onto the back of the second locust and prepared to give it an injection. It was not a vaccination, but a fatal injection. "Wait a minute," a voice suddenly sounded, and the mantis gorilla crawled out and said, "I still have a few questions to ask it." "You can eat it after I finish asking," the female spider said impatiently. "Brother mantis, you'd better ask quickly. My stomach is so hungry, and when I saw this idiot fall into my web bag, I was so happy that I forgot my name. Now, I can't stop drooling." "Okay," Perilla said, "I will ask quickly and won't delay your meal." Then, it asked the locust number 2, who was about to become someone else's delicacy, "Hey, let me ask you, why do you propose that I be the deputy commander of the Locust Association?" When the second one heard this, he thought Perilla was interested in the deputy commander of the Locust Association, and he must grab this life-saving straw, so he bargained, "If you let me go, I promise to let you become the deputy commander of the Locust Association, and I will take care of this matter." When the female spider heard this, she said anxiously, "Brother mantis, don't be fooled. It's lying to you." The Perilla mantis glared at her and said, "Children are not allowed to interrupt when adults are talking." The female spider pouted and looked at Perilla angrily, not daring to say anything. Zissou said to the second locust, "As for what you said, I need to see whether your answer satisfies me. You answer my question first." The second locust said, "It's like this. Our locust army is referred to as the Locust Army, and those troops that assist us in our work are, of course, the Locust Auxiliary Army." Zissou asked again, "Then why do you only let me be the deputy commander and not the commander?" The second locust said hesitantly, "Because you just went there, and I can't let you carry too heavy a burden. You see, I'm still only the deputy captain of the Zero Fighter Squadron until now," Zissou said bluntly. "I think you are afraid that I will become the commander of the Locust Auxiliary Army. You are jealous." After that, he said to the female spider, "Now you can eat it. This guy doesn't tell the truth and has a very bad conscience." The second locust was frightened and said quickly, "Grandpa Mantis, spare my life. If I told a lie, I will be punished by thunder and lightning." Zissou didn't want to look at the second locust anymore, and immediately spread his wings and flew away. Next, the female spider performed her injection skills, and then feasted on the delicious meal of the second locust. That afternoon, Zissou and her spider sisters easily destroyed a squadron of Zero fighters of the enemy. Until the evening, the enemy did not appear again. No mistakes, one sentence, one content, 1619, one book, one bar. However, Zissou was not in a hurry. It felt that the battle had just begun, and there would be more and more intense battles waiting for it in the future. So, it asked the female spiders who had not yet eaten the delicious meal to move with it to another nearby short tree to weave more spider webs to meet the possible battle tomorrow. Zissou thought that relying on these few spiders alone was not enough, and she had to call more spiders at night, especially some big spiders. Today, because the little spider's needle was not hard enough or her strength was too weak, she did not pierce the locust's flesh with her needle, and the locust almost broke free from the spider web and escaped. Fortunately, Shizuo arrived in time to cut the unfortunate guy in half, ending his tragic life. That evening, only 17 squadrons of Zero fighters returned, and one squadron did not return. The deputy commander of the Air Force, Mei Changmeo, thought that the squadron that did not return might have lost its way in the forest because it was too playful, and had to camp temporarily in the wild after nightfall. Therefore, he did not care too much about it, but just ordered other squadrons to pay more attention to and look for the locust squadron that did not return. The next morning, a squadron of Zero fighters flew over again, without any vigilance, as if they were taking a walk in their own back garden. When Zissou saw them, he immediately flew out from a small tree full of traps, landed on the outermost leaf, and said to them, "Hey, gentlemen, are you here for a walk or to look for someone?" A big locust said, "You are right. Could it be that you are the worm in our stomach and know what we are thinking?" Zissou continued, I also know that you are looking for a squadron of Zero fighters that did not return last night. Do you know where they are now? Tell us quickly, the enemy squadron leader said hurriedly. Chapter 97, Walking into Trap. Shizo said with a smile, they are now in my stomach. I ate them. What? Baka. Your conscience is so bad. You dare to play such a vicious joke on the Locust army, the enemy squadron leader cursed. Shizo said seriously, I am not joking. I am telling the truth. Believe it or not, Baka, you are working like a scoundrel. I will arrest you on behalf of the Locust army. You are dead. This time, the enemy squadron leader was very angry. Shizo Mantis smiled and said, okay. If you have the ability, come and catch me. The enemy Zero fighter squadron leader was so angry that he shouted, catch it for me. I will peel its skin and pull its tendons. There are people who dare to despise our great Japanese Empire Locust army. It is outrageous. I am so angry. After that, it led its flying squadron to rush towards Shizo. Next, a game of cat and mouse began again. Soon, these brain-dead locusts fell into the spider webs that had been waiting for them. The female spiders, who had been staring at the spider webs with hunger, rushed up impatiently to enjoy this long-lost delicious meal. A locust fell into the spider web, but fortunately found that no spider came up to give it an injection. Perhaps the female spider who wove this spider web was too diligent and was weaving a web somewhere else. The locust was about to break free from the spider web and escape, but was discovered by the purple mantis passing by. In the blink of an eye, the good fortune turned into misfortune, and in the end the locust could not escape the knife of purple mantis. The battle in the morning ended quickly, and the battle in the afternoon was more dramatic. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, two enemy Zero fighter flight squadrons came one after the other. When Purple Mantis saw it, he began to mutter in his heart, this is troublesome, I can't show up. I'd better let these two enemy flying squadrons go for the time being, otherwise I'll end up getting into trouble without being able to catch the fox. That would be a waste of money. Thinking of this, the Purple Mantis found a place to hide and wait and see what would happen. As the saying goes, if there is a road to heaven, you don't take it, if there is no door to hell, you enter it. Let's say that Purple Mantis originally planned to let these two flying squadrons go. However, the captain of the flying squadron in front said to his team members, brothers, the leaves of the small tree in front are big and many, which is just right for us to rest and cool down. Let's all hide in it and have a rest. Wow. Yoshi. Great. The locusts were so happy that they swarmed into the leaves. They never dreamed that they would go to the palace of Hades to rest later. In the blink of an eye, one said, oh no, I'm entangled in a spider web. The other said, I'm entangled in a spider web too. Soon, cries for help were heard everywhere. One shouted, help. Come and save me. A spider wants to eat me. The other shouted, help. Help. A female spider is trying to stab me with a poisonous needle. Soon, these cries for help gradually disappeared. The locusts caught in the web were paralyzed to death by the female spider's poisonous needles. Then, they became their free meal. In this way, without any effort, Zissou killed another flying squadron. It was simply fat meat delivered to the door. It would be a waste not to eat it. The flying squadron behind also slowly flew over. Locust A said, I saw the third squadron just flew into this small tree. Should we also go here to rest? Locust B said, how can our fourth squadron compete with a third squadron for territory? Would that hurt the harmony among brothers? Locust C said, then it's the same if we go to the small tree on the left with equally lush leaves to rest. The enemy locust leader said, you are right, let's go to the small tree on the left. Little did they know that the small tree on the left was also the gate of hell and was also set up by Zissou. Similarly, not long after, the enemy's fourth squadron also followed the footsteps of the third squadron and became the long-awaited delicious meal for the female spiders. Killed one squadron yesterday, and killed 3 squadrons today. Killed 4 enemy squadrons in 2 days, what a brilliant victory. Now, Zissou has covered the 3 small trees in the shape of a finished product with spider webs, waiting to completely destroy the enemy's Zero fighter here. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6 to 9 book, 1 forum. It is said that this night, the enemy Air Force Deputy Commander, No Hair, found that only 14 flying squadrons returned, and 3 squadrons did not return home at night. He felt that the situation was a bit serious, but he did not plan to report it for the time being. First, He had not figured out the reason, and second, the current loss was not too great. He thought, now the factor of playing and getting lost can be ruled out. It is impossible for 3 squadrons to play and get lost at the same time. There must be another reason. What could it be? Did they encounter a natural enemy? Is there a natural enemy that wiped out 3 of my flying squadrons in one day, and not even one ran back to report the news? Is there such a powerful and vicious enemy? Could it be that the flying demon did it again? When did it become so terrible? No Hare racked his brains and couldn't figure it out. He was now unwilling and terrified. After thinking about it, he felt that he must not let a squadron go out alone to perform the mission. There must be multiple squadrons. How many squadrons? The 3 squadrons that went out today might all be finished. Then there must be more than 5. Now there are still 14 squadrons. It would be a waste to send all of them. If one of them is wiped out, wouldn't it be even worse? Not sending any of them is not a good idea either. Then there is no way to know the reason why the 4 squadrons are missing. Finally, it came up with a good idea that it thought was the best of both worlds, which was to set up 2 flying squadrons, each with 7 squadrons. Chapter 98 Underestimating the Opponent. In addition, the 2 best squadron leaders from the existing squadron leaders will be selected as battalion leaders. When the enemy Air Force Deputy Commander Mei Changmeo came up with this idea, it was already midnight. He felt that he could finally sleep peacefully, and soon he fell asleep. At 8 o'clock the next day, Mei Changmeo appeared in front of the squadron leaders in a very proud manner, as if he was not affected at all by the disappearance of 3 squadrons yesterday. Mei Changmeo proudly announced the decision he had made last night, appointing 2 excellent squadron leaders to be promoted to battalion leaders. 1 left army battalion leader and 1 right army battalion leader. And evenly distributed their 7 squadrons to them. Let them rest in the morning, and then lead their battalions out for patrol in the afternoon. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon of that day, the left army battalion leader led his 7 squadrons, a total of 35 large locusts, and appeared in front of the 3 trees where Zissou had set traps. This really scared Zissou. My goodness, so many locust troops came at once, and it looked like they were here to fight me. I won't play with you anymore. We can't afford to offend you, but we can at least hide. I'll find a place to hide first. Besides, the enemy's left army captain led his troops to fly, stop, and fly again. He was so tired that he couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing the 3 lush trees in front of him, he was overjoyed and said, "Brothers, we ran to many places this afternoon and didn't rest much. Now these 3 trees in front are just pie in the sky. It's just right for us to rest, relieve fatigue and cool down. The 3 squadrons in the middle will rest in the middle tree, and the other 4 squadrons will go to the trees on the left and right to rest. Did you hear it? Hurry up and act." After saying that, he led the 3 flying squadrons to fly into the leaves of the middle tree, and the other 4 flying squadrons followed immediately, with 2 squadrons each entering the 2 small trees on the left and right. In a blink of an eye, every small tree was filled with complaints, scolding and cries for help. The female spiders who had set up their webs were so excited that their eyes were glowing red, and their saliva was almost dripping through the leaves. They rushed to their prey and mercilessly pierced the back of the locusts' heads or necks with their poisonous needles, instantly making them lose hope of survival. Some female spiders even caught 2 or 3 locusts in their webs, which showed that there were quite a lot of locusts. Almost all of them had their mouth full of oil and their bellies were round. However, there were 5 lucky locusts that did not touch the spider webs. They all landed on the leaves that were closer to the outside, so they escaped this disaster, but they were also so scared that they ran away without a trace in an instant. These scared locusts naturally went home to report the news. Hearing this bad news, the enemy Air Force Deputy Commander Mei Changmeo was so shocked that he was stunned, and it took him a long time to come back to his senses. He only realized now that this matter was serious and he could not hide it. There was no way. Mei Changmeo had to endure it again and again, and he had to report it. It first reported it to the Air Force Commander BP, who scolded it. "Bei Jialu, you disappoint me so much. You have no hair." "No hair, you are just a hairless person," BP scolded, waving his tentacles. "Commander, your BP has also been shaved off, so he has no hair," BP said, lowering his head and waving his tentacles. "My skin is shaved just because it is temporarily needed, and it will grow hair soon. You are hairless and will never work with hair. You can't compare with me, you know, Commander, but we are ants, not humans." Doesn't it make any difference whether we have her or not? Don't you think you are too happy? Ah. You are right. We are not gods or humans. We don't have that thing that humans have. If I were a human, even if I was just a hairless eunuch, I would be extremely honored and would be so happy every day to work. It's a pity that we are not humans. Even now we have made an unforgivable mistake, the hairless one said with his head down and dancing his tentacles. Deputy Commander, don't be discouraged. Your mistakes are not unforgivable, but you must learn from them and seriously summarize and review your mistakes, only then will there be hope of victory. Let's not report this to the cabinet and the Big Stomach King for the time being. BP waved his tentacles to comfort him. Why? We only have less than half of the Zero fighter flying squadron left. Mei Changmeo waved his tentacles and said. It doesn't matter. We recently received a new batch of 90 Zero fighters. Together with the 40 you left, we will have 130 Zero fighters to work. However, this second batch is also the last batch this year. Because autumn is coming soon, we will have to wait until next summer for new fighters to appear. By this time next year, we may have another 3 new batches of 90, a total of 270 Zero fighters to work. Wow. Thinking about this will make me so excited that I can't sleep. Why can't we produce fighters for such a long time from this autumn to next summer? This is because the lifespan of our fighter carriers, the locusts, is too short. They all die in winter. Now that autumn is coming, you must quickly drive all the locusts out to work and tell them to be more loyal to His Majesty, the Big Stomach King. Do you understand? BP said, waving his tentacles helplessly. Hey, said the hairless man, waving his tentacles excitedly, I understand. Thank you, Commander, for your kindness and for not punishing me. I will work for you until my death. Okay, you're welcome. Commander BP waved his tentacles and said, young people, everyone makes mistakes. As long as you have the courage to correct your mistakes and learn from your mistakes, you will have a bright future. Chapter 99, Expanding the Victory. Commander, I have a small request. I want to remove the title of Zero Fighter and change it to Locust Air Force Fighter. Deputy Commander, can you tell me what you think? Commander BP waved his tentacles and asked. What I'm worried about is that the Zero in Zero Fighter means equal to 0, which means nothing. What if one day our fighter planes go out to fight and all are wiped out? Wouldn't it be equal to 0 and all our work would be in vain? Your analysis makes sense and your consideration is very thoughtful. Then do as you say. It's just a title, don't make a fuss. This Locust Air Force Fighter can also be shortened to Locust Army Fighter. That's it. Hey, Mei Changmeo waved his tentacles and said, Commander, you are wise. The day after receiving the second batch of 90 Zero fighters, Locust Army Fighters, Mei Changmeo appeared in front of everyone again with great pride. He announced with great joy that the former commander of the Right Army was changed to the commander of the 4th Flight Squadron, responsible for controlling all the original fighters. The 90 new fighters were divided into 3 squadrons, and the captains of the 1st, 2nd and 3rd Flight Squadrons were appointed respectively. Then, one of the 4 squadron captains was selected to serve as the brigade commander of the Flight Brigade. At present, the captain of the 1st Flight Squadron temporarily served concurrently. After the appointment was completed, the hairless mantis actually asked them to take off immediately, and went to kill the ferocious and hateful mantis Perilla Flying Devil without eating. As for the problem of eating, the locusts were asked to solve it on the way. It seems that if the Flying Devil is not eliminated, the hairless mantis will not be able to sleep or eat. For the 3 small trees, the flying of these 130 large locusts can almost be regarded as overwhelming. Seeing so many locusts flying in a swarm, Perilla and the spiders were all a little panicked. Fortunately, in the past few days, the mantis Perilla has found dozens of female spiders and once again strengthened the fortifications. The spider webs now are not only much thicker than before, one web can catch at least 3 large locusts, and now there are spider traps everywhere. Spider webs were everywhere, not only between branches, but also between branches and leaves, and between leaves. Although there were many traps here, a secret route was left for the purple mantis to enter and exit freely, which would not affect the purple mantis's help in commanding and escaping. The new commander of the Locust Army Fighter Flying Brigade was named Flying Chief. He had never been defeated before, and he was always arrogant and looked down on everything. He would never believe that a small mantis could be so powerful that almost everyone in their great country of Japan would be so frightened and silent. This is unacceptable, it is simply too unreasonable. Flying Chief thought, I want to see what kind of monster you flying demon are. I really want to learn your skills. In a blink of an eye, 130 Locust Army fighter came to the front of the 3 small trees and stopped less than 3 meters away, and landed in the nearby grass. Brigade Commander Feifei turned around and asked the captain of the 4th Battalion beside him, tell me in detail about your defeat. So the captain of the 4th Battalion, formerly the captain of the Right Army, told him all the information he got from the escaped Locusts, adding some exaggerations. Feifei Chief asked again, you mean, the number of our troops who attacked the 3 trees at that time was scattered, with only 15 people at most and only 10 people at least on each tree. Is that right? The captain of the 4th Battalion said, yes. However, we did not attack at that time, we just went into rest. Feifei Chief said arrogantly, what I said is almost the same. Those who went in are not blind. Would they resist and lose their combat effectiveness? The captain of the 4th Battalion said, well, it seems not. However, they were all bound by spider webs and could not move. Feifei Chief said disdainfully, spider web? Is a mere spider web so scary? Haven't I seen spider webs? Don't make excuses to cover up your own incompetence. Feifei Chief turned around and said to his subordinates, pass my order, the 1st Battalion and the 4th Battalion will follow me to attack the small tree in the middle. Attack! A full 70 locusts swooped down on the small tree guarded by perilla like a cloud. Then there was a large sound of puff, puff, puff of spider webs falling, and about 30 or 40 large locusts fell into the trap, and cries for help rang out. After a while, these large locusts in the net were poisoned by a group of female spiders who were ready to fight and died. Soon, the enemy locust fighter flying Brigade Commander Feifei, who was kicked in the head by a donkey, began to land on the leaves outside. Now he wanted to lead the 2nd echelon behind to rescue the 1st echelon that fell into the trap. The result is conceivable. The brigade commander Feifei himself fell into the quagmire and couldn't extricate himself. At this time, a female spider quickly crawled in front of Feifei and said arrogantly, you bastard, I didn't expect that you would have this day. Die? Then, she raised a big poison needle and was about to stab Feifei's head. Wait a minute, a mantis suddenly called out. Shizo came out from his hiding place and said to the female spider, let me ask it a few words first. It won't be too late for you to kill it later. Then, Shizo asked, are you the leader of this group of big locusts? The leader of what big locusts? Feifei said angrily, you are a big troublemaker. You are very disrespectful to the locust army of the great Japanese blue country. You have a very bad conscience. We are the locust army fighter who can wash donkey paw dung balls. Flying brigade commander Feifei, Shizo Mantis said humorously, so you are the dung ball that can wash donkey paws? Shit, you are too self-aware. You know that you will be eaten soon and turned into feces, so please ask Mr. Dung Beetle to roll it, and it will become the dung ball you said. After that, Shizo and the female spider laughed together. Chapter 100 shocked the government and the people. When Feifei heard this, he was so angry that his whole body was shaking, his eyes turned green, and smoke came out of his head. He stammered, you'd better let me go quickly, otherwise, my Wazilu, flying brigade, will flatten this little doghouse of yours. Zisu smiled and said, you're about to die, but you're still so stubborn. However, you say that this is a doghouse, which is really flattering us. We are still insects, and we are a long way from the birds and beasts. Thank you so much for your compliment. Do you still want to call all the subordinates outside to come in and die? Just call them. We welcome them very much. Hurry up and call them. Feifei was sweating profusely and was anxious. His eyes were rolling around, and he couldn't decide for a long time whether he should call his subordinates to save him. At this time, Zisu and others were impatient and asked for help for it, raising their voices and shouting, hey! Listen to the idiots outside, your head is now captured by us. We are about to kill it. If you want to rescue it, please hurry up. We will not wait for you. After a while. At this moment, the 2 new captains of the flying brigade who stayed outside were thinking about their own little tricks. They both wanted to be the brigade commander of the flying brigade and thought they were the best candidates to replace the flying chief. When they heard that their brigade commander was captured and waiting to die, they were secretly happy in their hearts. Why would they risk their lives to rescue it? Only a fool would save it. Since you don't want to save it, you have to find an excuse. Thinking of this, the captain of the 2nd Battalion shouted loudly, Commander! It's not that we don't want to save you, it's because this is a trap, a snare. and we will die if we enter. When everyone dies with you, who will burn paper money for you every year during the holidays? The captain of the 3rd Battalion also echoed loudly, yes. Commander, if we all die with you, who will take care of your wife and children? You have to think clearly. There are 3 unfilial acts. Not having descendants is the greatest. We have to take care of them for you and continue your family's incense. When Feichu heard this, his nose collapsed with anger, thinking, these 2 bastards are afraid of death and dare not come to rescue, which is fine, but they actually come up with so many high-sounding reasons, which really makes me angry. Forget it, just die. Who cannot die? It's only a matter of time. After thinking it through, he felt relieved and shouted, you 2 can lead the team and go. Don't forget what you just said. Just remember me. Oh. You still have some backbone? When Zissou saw it, he knew that he had thought it through. Then, he waved his hand to the female spider, indicating that she could start the execution. In this way, Zissou destroyed a total of 70 Locust Army fighters this time, and scared away 60 fighter planes. At the same time, he also killed the enemy's commander-in-chief of the Flying Brigade, Feichu, Dungbal, and achieved an unprecedented brilliant victory. When the Locusts that escaped back reported to the enemy Air Force Commander Bei Pai and Deputy Commander Mei Changmeo, the matter could no longer be concealed. It was like a major earthquake that caused a great shock throughout the government and the country. The reputation of the Zissou Mantis flying demon became more famous and shocking. Now, it has almost changed from the original fear and panic to superstitious worship. Sometimes it is said that it is brave to subdue demons and monsters, and sometimes it is said that it turns beings into soldiers with 3 heads and 6 arms. In short, all the nice words were thrown at it, regardless of whether it could bear it or not. Almost all the ants in the entire ant world, no, mainly the ants in the Japanese Blue Kingdom and the Red Ant Kingdom, became its fans without exception. Seeing that the reputation of the flying demon was getting bigger and bigger, the cabinet ministers had a headache, and the Big Stomach King also had a headache. The ministers held meetings again and again to discuss solutions. Fighting is absolutely not an option, so let's seek peace. However, seeking peace is also a stopgap measure, which is equivalent to raising a tiger to cause trouble and cannot solve the fundamental problem. What should we do? Finally, a minister with profound knowledge and experience proposed the ingenious plan of recruiting peace and explained the various benefits of recruiting peace. Finally, everyone voted by raising their hands at the meeting, and almost unanimously passed the proposal of recruiting Perilla. Next, things will be much easier. It's just some trivial matters, such as plenipotentiary envoys, gifts, and promises. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 look. It was a cloudless day, with a gentle breeze and a cool autumn weather. Zissou felt that staying in the leaves every day was boring. The enemy had not been seen for more than a month since the disastrous defeat. The enemy might be scared and would never dare to come again. Zissou was in a particularly good mood these days. Seeing that it was another sunny and cool day today, he flew out to walk around. He first flew to a leaf on the top of a small tree and looked into the distance. Although he could not say that he could see all the mountains from a distance, he could see quite far. Suddenly, it saw a long and winding ant transport team slowly approaching from a distance. Then, a locust flew over from the back of the team and landed in the grass in front of the small tree. It looked up and asked, "Is this hero on the top of the tree the famous flying god hero?" Zissou said, "Maybe." "Who are you and what do you want here?" The locust immediately straightened up, bowed his head and said, "I am ordered by the Big Eater of the Wallen Kingdom and the Prime Minister to come to recruit the respected flying god hero. I am the plenipotentiary envoy Gao Chu." When Zissou heard the name Gao Chu, his heart was excited, and he thought, even Gao Chu is here, it seems that he really wants to recruit me. Will there be Song Jiang too? Thinking of this, Zissou asked again, "Is Song Jiang here, sending guns?" Gao Chu said hurriedly, Yes, they will be here soon." Taking advantage of the free time before Song Jiang arrived, Zissou asked, "What does your transport team do?" Gao Chu said, "I forgot to introduce you. This transport team is here to deliver gifts to you. They have been on the road for more than 20 days. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.